Intro it again, Tony. Sure, I'm sure we've got sound
all good now, apparently. So we're all online and here.
Way.
Perfect. All right, intro it again, Tony. Take 2.
Okay, so I'll intro again. Welcome, gentle Grots, to the Three Grots in a Vox podcast. We're all live on a beautiful Thursday night. What a crap night to be live streaming on before we all get up in the morning and go back to work. So we're going to be here for a couple of hours and we're going to be talking over Chapter Approved 2022.
It could be worse. We could be in Scotland.
Harsh.
Yeah, it could be in Scotland, yeah.
Harsh.
Not arguing, though.
Yeah, no arguing, I guess. But at least in Scotland we have Iron Brew, so that's something. Look, original recipe from 1901.
Oh, wow.
Well, I've got an original recipe as well. I'm on my Papworth Brewery Red Kite tonight. I'm sorry, weird beer fans, but unfortunately I didn't have time to get anything really horrendous this week. So I've had to rely on just normal beer.
I'm headed up to Dundee in about a month or so for another 40k live roleplay event, and one of the things I always try and bring down is some decent tablet or fudge or something. I might have to get some Iron Brew alongside it.
Yeah, I do like Iron Brew. They have a sugar tax on it now, so they had to they had to drop the amount of sugar in it, so it's not quite as good, but I enjoy it. So anyway, Chapter Approved came out, last Saturday? So we've maybe had a little bit of time to get our teeth into it. Can I just start by saying, before we before we go any further, I felt pretty ripped off for £25 for this, to be honest. It's like 50 sheets of A4 pages max, so at that point you're paying like 50 pence per sheet or something. I was like, wow.
Should we get the salty negativity out of it right at the beginning?
Okay, so I agree that this is not a good value for money, but I was happy purchasing it on the basis that this is a significant content update from the last one. There's a lot of new stuff in here, from the secondaries to the missions and whatnot. It's been ages since the last update. It's nice having them on hand. And if they don't put any decent updates in the next one in 6 months' time, then I might review my position. But, well, hey, for now, I'm okay with it.
So, yeah, I don't think I would recommend this to anybody who doesn't absolutely need it. It's one of those things nice to get for your group. I mean, the field manual, the points costs, they'll pop up all over the place. My app's now updated, so if you've got the app, you've got the points costs anyway for all the armies you've got on there, so you don't need it. And it's just the missions. So if you're playing a lot of tournament missions and you want to play with the latest rules, then sure, it's fine. It's a bloody expensive pamphlet. But the new missions are all pretty good. I think I like them. I like the new secondaries. I mostly like the new grand tournament rules. So it's not bad. It's just very expensive. It's a good one to share between your group.
I was shockingly impressed at how good the new missions are. That might just be new syndrome, but I really liked them.
Yeah, I mean, I've played 2 of the new missions now, and the one that I played against the Knights this Monday actually was really interesting as well. It's really nice to not have
I missed
primaries.
That game. How'd it go?
Well, the Knights are obviously going to flood the primaries.
Okay, so sorry, let's break it down to 2 points. How badly did Andrew cheat, and did you beat him?
I don't think he cheated.
Jesus Christ. Good job I'm sitting down.
And if I had to do Nachman data in the final turn with just like 3 Vanguard veterans, and I rolled a 4, so it didn't go off. But if it had gone off, I would have beat him in I'm like 96 to 60. I think it was 92 to 60 because Nachman data failed. But
that's good.
Interesting. I mean, it's kind of weird that you could win or lose a game now on whether your squad's big enough to do Nachman data, but I guess that's the way it goes.
I like that incentivizes your opponent to maybe kill a few models here and there that they wouldn't do otherwise if they're trying to bring other stuff down. So I like the decisions it forces upon your opponents. And you.
So we got a bunch of regulars in the chat here. We got Highland Phoenix, we got Knucking Futs, Balanced Hydra, Steel Rain, Maverick Jeff, My Status Online, Foz, Muggin, and Michael. Good a number of people here, so thanks for tuning in. And if you do enjoy the stream, please hit the like button so this video can share to other people. That's very much appreciated. So
we can spread the insanity as far across the internet as these foolish people will have us.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about the points cost book, or do you want to maybe focus on the grand
should we start
tournament?
on the points costs? I've done a little bit of analysis, and I spent the time and I've been through the whole book and I've actually been through every page and annotated and worked out the points cost changes for all the different things. So I thought it might be worth us spending just a couple of minutes. We'll whiz over the different factions, whiz over the changes, and just whether we think that they're meaningful or not, or whether it's pissing in our eyes.
You've done the work. It would be, cool. Do it.
Let's be lazy. We'll start at the beginning with our Space Marines. And I've been through, and there's very little changes. The only real changes are we've got the increase to our chaplain on a bike. He's gone up 10 points. He probably should have gone up 10 points. He is a bit overcosted. Now, please don't take this as me saying Space Marines are in a great place and need a nerf. What I'm saying is, compared to the other choices in the book, the Primaris chaplain was a bit too much of an auto take for everybody who isn't John.
And let's face it, it's probably easier for them to bump him up 10 points than it is to drop everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
so. I think that's probably a fair change. Other changes we've had: Redemptor Dreadnought's gone up 10 points to 185. Again, he is a bit swingy, but he is very, very good. As a faction, we didn't need a nerf. Certainly not on our most used unit, but it has brought him a little bit less of an auto take compared to some of the other stuff. I'm still running him. I'm still running 2. But I think a 10-point increase to 185 does feel fair for what you get for those points to me. I don't know what you gentlemen think.
I built my first one recently. I finally finished it, and it's bloody huge.
It's quite a fun kit to build, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you think that you've got all these little box noughts in line, which is great, and then the Redemptor next to it, it's like twice as big. It towers over the Leviathan, which shocked me. I'd have thought, if anything, the Leviathan would be the big.
It makes the Telemon look tiny too.
Bloody hell.
So
still easier to build than Inceptors, though.
Oh yeah,
screw those guys.
It was a nice kit. So moving along a little bit, we got some points drops. We got drops for our Hail Strike, our Hammer Strike, and our Thunder Strikes, the Storm Speeders. I still think they're shit. I have seen a few people talking about running the Hail Strike because 125 points is actually now relatively cheap. You could argue that it's worth a pump, but I'd say you'd be wrong. That's not entirely fair, but
Tony, Steel Rain would like to know if it'll take $5 to stop you from whinging.
Oh, we've got the whinging out of the way. We got that in the first 5 minutes of
okay.
Books are shit. They're not worth 25 quid, but now we're moving on.
Moving on. Right.
So moving on then. Heavy support. Devastator Centurions got a 15-point drop. It's a massive drop for Devastator Centurions. It makes them almost reasonable, or it would if it did. They're, as Highland Phoenix says, they're crap. They are crap. They're great for chapters that aren't Blood Angels, but for Ultramarines, they can be pretty good. For Iron Hands, they can be pretty good. Anybody with like a specialist Devastator Doctrine, they're not bad. Or anybody who's playing a more static army, they're pretty good. If you're playing a more aggressive Space Marine list, they're pretty useless. Moving on then, we've got the Gladiator, Lancer, Reaper, and Valiant, all of which have taken a decent drop of 15 points. I haven't made my mind up on these. What do you gents think? You going to run one?
No.
I'm going to do Math Hammer. I'm going to do a Math Hammer video on both these things for the Blood Angels Commander in the next month. But at the moment, I feel like they're still underwhelming. But I mean, we'll do some math and we'll find out. You know.
After talking briefly with you guys, I considered the Lancer, and then I saw the price of actually buying one of the kits and went, "Nah, you're right, mate."
60 quid, isn't it? That's a lot of money.
I think if I was going to do one, it would have to be the Reaper, just because it's like the spiritual successor to the Baal Predator, right?
No, I feel like I was cheating on the Baal Predator.
I mean, I think the Reaper might be okay, but like the lack of invulnerable save really turns me off on them.
The thing that bugs me the most about them is none of this stuff. It's the size. You can't hide them.
No,
they're just huge holes. So, nah, cheers. But hey, there we go.
Okay, so that's our sort of major changes there. The other changes we've got for Space Marines, we can whiz over at the back at Forge World. If we look over here, we've got two changes for Forge World. We've got the Contemptor Dreadnought, the Twin Volkite Culverin has gone up by 10 points. We knew it was coming. It's not a surprise to anybody. I don't know if 10 points extra was enough. I think just 5 probably would have been about fair, but sure, it's 10 points up per gun, so it has made it a bit more expensive. Maybe leading into the 1 gun, 1 chain fist loadout is the way forward. Certainly for Blood Angels, if you're a shooty chapter and you want to lean into that shooting, then maybe it's a bit different for you. The other change, the more interesting change for me, is 75 points knocked off the Astraeus.
Yeah, that is the more interesting change for me as well, actually. I don't own an Astraeus, so I don't know how big its footprint is on the battlefield, but it's 600 points.
It's similar to your Falcons.
I think it might be a tiny bit thinner, right?
Similar.
Bit similar, yeah. So it's 600 points. It's only going to cost you 1 CP to include it now because of the detachment rule change. So I think it's pretty nice. You know, it's got 30 wounds. It's got those 6 extra shield wounds. It's toughness 8. I think you could make it work on a Blood Angels list if you ran it with a Tech Marine. I totally think you could. I guess maybe one day we'll include it in Astraeus on the channel, but I think that's.
I keep looking at them thinking, "Ooh, I quite fancy one of them."
Yeah,
Reziel still thinks they suck. What we've got here, James Gibb. What would you put in the fist? Plasma. I don't know. I might put plasma in it, but I'm a cheapskate, so I'll probably stick
put
with
whatever costed 0 points. Not paying extra for special handgun.
Yeah. Anything over 400 points is just a meme. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The Thunderhawk is not a meme; it's a meta. What else we got going on? Highland Felix still too expensive. I'd rather take a Stern Guard unit with combi grav and grav cannons. That's because you're a closet ultramarine.
I think that was over the Centurion Devastators, but yeah, I tend to agree with Highland. They're still too expensive.
They're way too expensive. Nobody's running them. My status online question for back. Since Jack Harpster's GT winning list, I noticed you haven't taken much inspiration from it. Wondering why that was the case. Now with a 10-point decrease with Death Company squad of 5. So come on, John. Why? Why are you not taking more?
I can answer this to a degree, at least my perception of it. Jack Harpster's play style and John's differ substantially.
Yeah, I was going to say that, yeah. My playstyle is way more defensive than his. He's happy to throw away units to hold board control and like stranglehold and stuff like that. I don't think we're durable enough to hold, unless there's a shitload of terrain on the battlefield. I don't know how you hold an objective in the middle with like 5 Marines anymore. They just die to everything. So I tend to play much more defensive than Jack.
I was enjoying being really accusatory.
Oh.
Okay, do you want to go again?
Mark cut me off, and now I'm deflated.
Oh, no.
Didn't Jack Harpster run Custodes or something in the LVO as well?
Yeah.
So clearly he thinks that too.
He did not. In the end, he did not finish in the top 8, or did he finish the top 8? I can't remember.
No, I don't think he
got
did.
Very, very close.
I'm sure he's an incredible player.
There we go. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to get to it later, but there's actually a change to the rules that I don't like, and it could mean that people like Jack Harpster are going to be almost at risk of being knocked out of that before they've even started. And I find that a little bit annoying. What else we got here? Reziel, Tau don't care. Tau don't care about anything. They're just running around in their own special world of being special weebs.
Any other points to? Any other points changes to consider? Are they all...
Yes, we've got loads of them. I've barely tickled the thing, me. Reziel, philosophically, I think Jack has a right if it would be a shh.
Right.
Okay, so Ultramarines didn't get any changes. White Scars didn't get any changes. Salamanders didn't get any changes. Imperial Fist didn't get any changes. Black Templars is a new codex, more or less. So, although they had a few, I don't think they had any direct changes, but the codex is so new. It became a bit hard to track that.
Custodians, excuse me. Sorry.
That makes me sad about my new book. It's a week old. So Blood Angels changes. Mephiston got dropped 15 points. Anybody think it makes him worth taking?
I've thought about it like 2 or 3 times since they dropped him 15 points, and I just can't compare him to Null Zone. You know, like, Null Zone is so much better than any other power he can cast, I feel like, personally. And for the same points, the Chief Librarian with the jump pack, it's just better. So no, Mephiston for me is he's just not good enough.
Yep. I still think that give him a flat 3 damage weapon, and I'll be talking.
I'm far more likely to take him in a fun game than I was before, but
Yeah.
I'm still not going to consider him in competitive, which
Still
is a
an
shame.
awesome model. What else we've got changes? Death Company Intercessors -2 points. Again, doesn't make them any better.
Makes them
They're
great.
still fun for a little game,
They're
but
still
not
great
much for a
in
big one.
1K.
Death Company Marines drop 2 points a model. Now, I think this is a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, if you run a Death Company 5-man with 2 Thunderhammers now, it's just 5 more points than it was before. I think 5-man Death Company with 2 hammers is very good now.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I've been looking at running a bit more Death Company myself. I know Reziel in the chat's a big fan of Death Company. I still run a nice little unit, but it just means that I've now got 10 more points to play with. So, winner.
And apparently we're sleeping on 10 Death Company with 6 Infernal Pistols, says Steel Rain.
I don't think I am. It would be spiky and uncomfortable.
It would be cheap, though. It would be cheap now. 23 points for a jump pack unit.
Gretchen are cheap as well. Nobody's taking those either.
I don't think it's going to make anybody take Death Company that wasn't already interested in doing so. It's a nice little boost, but it's not going to change your list building philosophy off the back of
that. Okay, so let's move on then. Dark Angels changes here. Ravenwing Black Knights drop 5 points. I'm not sure they really needed it. I don't think it's going to make them run any more than they were before. But sure, 5 points is 5 points. The Nephilim and the Ravenwing Flyers for the Dark Angels. They've had a little drop.
You never saw them before.
Like the Dark Talon, but I can't see the point in the Nephilim.
Yeah,
but again, I think it's something. If you're running them anyway, great. But I don't think many people were.
Yeah, I think nobody was running them. So you might see the odd one here or there now, but yeah.
Well, we've got, okay, so let's move on then. Space Wolves. They've had a little bit of a boost. Wolfen dropping 2 points. But the more interesting thing there is the Wolfen's Thunderhammer dropping 6 points.
Oh, I didn't realise that it dropped 6 points on the Thunderhammer.
Cool. That's a huge change because, your squad, that's 10 points for your Wolfen. That's another 6 points for your Thunderhammer that was in there already. That's not far off having another Wolfen.
I don't really recall seeing many Wolfen squads being equipped with Thunderhammers. That was more of a Thunderwolf Cav thing. Really.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's the cavalry that usually get that.
Still a thing. Speaking of the cavalry, they've dropped 5 points.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
I mean, everyone was running them anyway, so it just means that all the Space Wolves players have got a little bit more money or points to spend. Again, I think they're probably good changes. I think they needed them. Moving on then, we're looking at the Death Watch. The Death Watch's special flyers had a little bit of a drop of 15 points as well. I think you're seeing Corvus Blackstar maybe a little bit more than the Dark Angels flyers, but still not much. It's a flyer. It's still a bit too overcosted, even at 165 points.
Yes.
I think if I was running Death Watch, this would tempt me more than the other 2 Space Marine flyers, but I'm probably still not going to run it. Moving on then, Grey Knights. Grey Knights have had a few changes.
I was going to say Public Enemy number 1, Grey Knights.
Public Enemy number 1, Grey Knights. You're just bitter because you lost to them, and you lost to them because of bad deployment and lack of screening.
You haven't played them since, have you?
No, but what I did take some solace in is that everything in that RB went up considerably. Because I think he had 3 strike squads. Strike squads are up 2 points per model, so that would have been an extra 60 points.
Strike squads are the same price.
No, sorry. What was it then? What's the other squad? What was the squad that went up 2 points per model?
Interceptors.
Interceptors. Yes, sorry. So he had multiple squads of them.
I'm just thinking that full credit to you, John. You play something, you lose to it, you learn from it, you come back and bounce back better against playing it the next time and learn. That's absolutely brilliant the way you do that. So it'll be interesting to see how you fare playing it again.
Yeah, and I mean, every single Nemesis Dread Knight went up 10 points, both the characters and the regular ones, right?
Which you did need. They were very undercosted. Brotherhood Terminators dropped 2 points and Paladins dropped 2 points. I still don't think we're going to see any Terminators. The Strike Squads at 22 points a model are just such incredible value that I just don't think you're going to see Terminators at 40 points. I know they're troops, they are Terminators, but I just don't think we're going to see them. Even with that drop. Paladins, 2 points off a model on those. It's a nominal points drop. It's not going to make much of a difference. If you were running them before, you're still running them now. You've just saved a few points. Interceptors going up 2 points. I think that was justified. They were a bit undercosted. And the Nemesis Dread Knights going up 10 points both. Absolutely needed. They were way overcosted. We're going to get into another change that's affected Grey Knights quite a bit later on, but the two changes together, the points increase and also the change to the way detachments work, is needed for some of those really ridiculous Grey Knight armies we were facing with sort of 5 Dread Knights in them.
I'm actually surprised the Brotherhood Librarian stayed where he was, though. Just because, like, he's the guy that can just teleport around and do, like, 20 mortal wounds unhindered. Like, he could have easily afforded to go up 10 or 15 points, in my opinion. Maybe even 20.
I think it's because of the reliability, and he doesn't reliably do that. He just sometimes does that, and when that does come in your face, then that's a really bad day for you.
He's pretty reliable if you... I mean, you can cast on 3d6.
You can. He works out at doing average about 11 or 12 mortal wounds, which is a lot.
It's a lot for a 100-point character.
That he can do.
It's a lot. It's a lot for a 100-point character, and I think it's pretty reliable. I think he can easily do 10 mortal wounds every single time, unless you roll like dog shit. Which, I mean, I guess that happens. But you know, if you roll dog shit, the opposite. I think if you roll really hot, it's 20 mortal wounds. So
yeah.
You know, it's it seems like a very cheap way to deal out 10 mortal wounds. You know, like I don't like, you know, the Sisters of Battle when they bring in I forget, the squad that brings in the Artificer Stormbolters, and for 1 CP they can do 6 mortal wounds.
I want to say the Dominions.
Yeah, like I think that's really powerful because that squad's 80 points. You can reserve it, you can bring it in, you can almost guarantee 6 mortal wounds. You know, this guy, 100 points, you can almost guarantee 10 mortal wounds. I don't know. I don't think any model that only costs 100 points should be able to guarantee 10 mortal wounds in a single round of... Or a single phase, I guess.
Before we get too sidetracked in discussing individual units and rules and where they fit and all this sort of stuff, it is worth remembering that we are due another balance update document this month.
Yeah, might have a thing. And we've already done an episode on magical space wizards and all that shit. So yeah, if people want to see the most broken shit that we've come across in the last year or so, we have an episode on that. Let's roll on. Sororitas. So the Sisters of Battle. Morgan fail just to keep Reziel happy and irritate Mark because I've said Morgan, not Morven. It's like Tufa. Has gone up by 15 points. She absolutely deserves going up 15 points. She's still a bargain at 280 points, which sounds crazy, bargain at 280 points, but she really is for what she brings. So people who are running her are still going to be running her, and people who aren't running her probably should be if you're running Sororitas. And that's actually their only real change that they've had. I didn't notice any other ones. The Novitiates are new, and so they're now in the book, which is good, and they weren't before. When we're talking about, we've got loads more changes.
I thought the Sacrosancts went up like 2 points per model.
Sacrosancts went up 2 points. Again, probably deserved. The Paragon Warsuits went down 30 points for the squad. It's needed, but you're still not going to see them because they're still too squishy. They're still too expensive. Dominions have gone up 2 points to keep John happy and stop them spamming Mortal Wound Stormbolters. The Castigator tank and the Exorcist have both dropped 10 points each. We weren't really seeing them before, and I'm not sure that we're going to see them much now.
No, I don't think it's enough of a change.
I don't think it's enough of a change. The Castigator is just a better Predator, but it's still not good enough in this edition, really. I don't think we're really seeing them. And the same with the Exorcist. If you maths it out, the Castigator actually does better against most targets. But I'm still not going to see it, I don't think, even with its points drop. Other changes, the Immolator's dropped 10 points.
That's a good change. I like the Immolator. I think it's a good tank.
I think it's a cool tank, and I'm glad it's dropped.
The flamers on it are pretty legit because they're like an extra strength over Space Marine flamers, you know? Like, they're nice.
I really like seeing proper Sisters lists where they're all in transports, loads of Immolators, loads of flamers. I just think it's really fun to see on the tabletop. These are another... Well, we're not really, but I do wonder if we're going to see them a little bit more. There has been the change that we're going to talk about more later, I think, about the detachments, and that's hit Sisters really hard because people were in faction swooping quite a lot with them. And maybe that means we're going to see some more stuff than kind of a 50-50 Argent Shroud,
I love that change.
Bloody
I'm
Rose
really
mix.
happy they made it.
So I think that we might see them. And I do think that if you're running a fluffy list, it does reward you a little bit, because at 110 points, I think the Immolator's an absolute bargain.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I was speaking to Andrew just yesterday or something, and he was saying that the Bloody Rose now have their own custom rules from the campaign book. So Bloody Rose are actually really attractive, new custom
They've got
stratagems.
a mini codex supplement Bloody Rose with some special Bloody Rose dice, and all you've got to do is spend 35 quid on a new campaign book for 4 pages of rules for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a bargain. It's certainly a bargain compared to this. I bet it works out cheaper. All
right, let's
roll on then. Custodes, they're all new. They've already got new points costs, which is exactly what we needed.
They already dominated the LVO without these points drops, so
yeah. Terminators dropped 5 points. Sure, okay. Everybody gets a free Misericordia, which I actually love. It doesn't necessarily have to be free, but I don't like them when they don't take the Misericordias. It's one of those really fluffy kind of choices. They don't go anywhere without them, so it seems weird that you can have them without them. Other changes, the Bike Captain dropped. Why did the Bike Captain drop? He was fine before. And if we're talking about ridiculous drops, what the hell? Why has Trajan dropped 2? That's bonkers. He was perfectly costed before in that everyone was thinking about taking him, and now he's 10 points less. He's way undercosted. So yeah, we're not going to dwell on the Custodes. That was just an absolute fucking shit show.
The Custodes point drop is the precise reason that this paper system no longer works.
I don't mind but the thing is, there's no way they could have possibly play tested them before they printed this book with the drops.
Well, exactly. So it's fine. So, I mean, Custodes are just going to dominate until the balance slate. It's going to be so weird though, right? Like, it's like, oh, Custodes Codex came out 10 days later, or like a week later, we've dropped the points in chapter approved, and then in the next balance slate, we're going to have to put the points up or something because Custodes are just going to dominate everybody. It's like,
I don't know if they're going to dominate everything. They are in some matchups very, very powerful, but in other ones they are quite weak. I think they're really going to struggle against the new tower. They're going to get shot off the table pretty effectively. And we're seeing some of the other more against more firepower heavy armies. They are not nearly so dominant.
Looking at this from the different and maybe more reasonable point of view, maybe Custodes did so well because they are brand new. They were being played by a very prominent team, the Art of War, who had access to preview copies before lots of other people had time to practice and build loads of builds. And people just hadn't had a chance to really play against them, learn how to counter all of their shit. Yeah.
I don't know.
It might just be a new meta thing. God knows.
Let's see. I think the problem with Custodes is that they can turn off your rerolls completely, and then they can transhuman everything. So it's just like
transhuman everything. They can transhuman 1 unit, the same as Space Marines can transhuman 1 unit.
Sure, but Custodes units are like 10 times more durable. So
all right. So how's about this to try and counter them? Let's say they've got an effect that they have to deal with. They have to deal with 2 effects. One of them says every time you spend a CP, you have to roll a dice, and if it's 5 up, you have to spend an extra CP or it fails. And then there are the effects for second effect that does the same thing but on a 4+ instead.
Well, sure. Are you going to bring that against everything? I mean, I guess situationally, yeah, sure. I think that they are going to someone in the chat saying that they lost their 3 up invulnerable save. I don't think that's an issue at all because, I played the same list 2 weeks in a row. That list managed to table like 10 knights in turn 4. And I threw the entire list against like 1 squad of Custodes bikes and a dreadnought, and I couldn't kill it.
Hold on, I just want to address something quickly in chat if I can. Playtest the meta may well be a thing, but I don't want to denigrate in any way, shape, or form what Art of War have done and achieved. They know so much. They keep up with the meta. They play every single army that they possibly can. They know all the armies inside out and therefore how to beat them. And they live it and they make it their living and their life. So they dedicate themselves to it a hell of a lot and they reap dividends for it. So maybe they get a bit of advantage from the playtester stuff. That doesn't negate the fact that they put so much effort into this as well.
Yeah, and they do make some good content as well. Let's be honest. I think we all probably read a lot of it. Rolling a little bit back. Highland saying they struggle against Abmech. Yeah, they do. They really struggle, like I say, against shooty stuff, and they really struggle against armies like. So I've done a lot of playtesting, hopefully for an episode coming up, where I've been doing a lot of playtesting against other armies and a lot against other units, things like that. Unfortunately, they're extremely strong against combat armies, and especially strong against Space Marines. Which from a fluff point of view makes absolute sense because they are supposed to be extremely well designed for killing Space Marines, but they absolutely have got armies that they're much weaker against, and they have got units that they're much weaker against. It's just not generally Blood Angels ones. But we're going to move on because we're going to be dwelling on this all the time. Rolling back to the Forge World stuff, they have had one change to their Forge World units, which was the Telemon Dreadnought has dropped by 20 points, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's dropped by 20 points. They've also, their grav carriers dropped by 30 points. We're not going to see them. We didn't see them before. They're still way too expensive for a transport. That's really a bit crap. Everything else. The Orion and the Ares have also dropped by 50 points, and we're never going to see them. The other good changes that they have had to their Forge World stuff, which is bringing it in line a little bit, is they have started to get their free Misericordias, which is nice to see. The Aquilon Custodians are there, the big Forge World Terminators. They've dropped 5 points, but we're still not going to see them because they're way too expensive compared to the normal ones. An interesting thing to note is that the Sagittarium Custodians do not get free Misericordias. They're the only unit that don't, for some reason or not. But I can kind of see it. They don't want to make them too good in combat. They want to try and keep them a little bit weaker, or you have to pay for that. Which is fine.
To address something as well, very briefly in chat while I can, Blood Angels are not irrelevant. The only way Blood Angels are being irrelevant is if people forget them and stop paying attention to them.
And
What they are,
saying, I'm going to play another army, or
what they are is not the focus right now, and that's fine. But they're far from irrelevant.
Yeah. So what was we looking at?
Points. What's after Custodes?
So yeah, points. After Custodes, we have got nothing changed with the Assassins. Astra Militarum didn't have that many changes. It might be because of the new book that's supposedly coming out soon. But a couple of changes they did have that were fairly significant were the Death Strike missile dropped 30 points. That's significant.
Is it?
No. The Lemon Rust battle tank dropped 10 points. That's it is a little bit more significant because it does mean that it competes a little bit more with tank aces, but yeah, still going to bring a tank ace over a Lemon Rust. The Manticore's gone up 10 points again, which is probably deserved. Full payload Manticores are absolutely what you bring with Astra Militarum at the moment. So I think it was a fair increase of 10 points on those. Not that the army's doing particularly well at the moment. So again, I'm not looking at a balancing the army against other armies. I'm looking at balance in the codex. Putting them up 10 points does mean that you're more likely to look at some of the other things in there, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, Lehman Russ has got given a 2-up save in the data sheet, balance sheet. So I mean,
they're pretty good. It's just the tank case is better because it's a Lemon Rust that can hit things.
Yeah,
and that's I think why we just don't see them. And another drop on them is I don't think it's really going to change that. I'm not the biggest Astra Militarum player. I have played a little bit, and I've certainly played against them a few times, but I just can't see me. If I was looking at the army list going, oh, what am I going to take? I can't see me going, I'm not going to take that tank case. I'm going to take a Lemon Rust and save myself a few points. I just don't think it's worth it. Okay, moving on then. Mechanicus. Now, we saw these early with the balance slate, but just as a bit of a recap, the Marshal went up 10 points. Good. He was way undercosted. The Manipulus, the same deal, way undercosted, gone up 10 points. Your Skitari have gone up 1 point, both the Rangers and the Vanguard. Again, they needed it. They were very, very cheap. The Infiltrators have gone up 2. The Rust Stalkers have gone up 2. The Iron Strider Ballistari's gone up by 10. Again, with those Cognislas cannons, they are ridiculous for what you get. The Cerberus Raiders have gone up 4 points. probably a good change. Again, they're very, very powerful with their fullback shenanigans, really messing with your opponent. The Castellan robots have dropped 10 points. I like this change. I really like those robots, and I'm glad dropping 10 points does make them a little bit more viable than they were before. They were a little bit overcosted before. And with the changes to the other stuff, we might see a few more robots around, which is cool. I remember the original Imperial robots. Do you guys remember those?
Oh, God, that's going back a while.
You had to program them at the beginning of the game, and you had these little cards, and you wrote them the program they had to follow for the game.
There's an episode of Hammer and Bolter that's got an Admex archaeologist accompanied by one of those robots, and they're just going through this planet trying to find some stuff. It's really, really cool. I enjoyed it.
It's just really cool.
I think we may actually see some robots come into the meta, but it's worth saying, even with all these changes, they just won LVO.
It's still very, very powerful. It's just taken a little bit of the edge off, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Archaeocopter's gone up 20 points. The Fusillade, the Stratoraptors, both gone up 20 points. Absolutely needed. They were way undercosted. Them, along with the Orc ones, necessitated a change to the core rules.
Yeah, the nerf to what flyers you can include is far more important than the individual points of that flyer. But yeah.
A couple of changes to the Holy Orders as well, I've noticed. The Logai and the Artisans. The Logai's gone up by 5 points, and the Artisans has gone down by 10 points. I think you might start seeing some of the others a little bit more now, which is a good thing. But I think overall it's not going to make much of a difference to your army. No changes to Knights, no changes to the Inquisition. Chaos Space Marines are now top meta with their, get this, 2-point drop to Chaos Space Marines.
Okay, hold on. I'll make another little point here. So, all of you people saying Blood Angels, hard done by, losing, beaten by everything. Chaos Space Marines were promised an extra wound a year and a half ago, and they still don't have it.
Yeah, but they've got a 2 points drop. I don't know what you're whinging about.
Bollocks right there.
They're top of the meta. 2 points drop. That means that this is ridiculous, isn't it? A Chaos Space Marine, so a 10,000-year-old Astartes, seeped in the nature of the warp, costs only 12 points.
And Tactical Marines cost 18.
That means that a 10,000-year-old super soldier only costs 12 points. I don't know what you're whinging about.
All right. Anyway, we're getting caught up on stuff, and we're going to be here forever.
Yeah, piss take. I'm trying to go through quickly. So, what else we got changes? Warp Talons dropped by 3 points. Probably need it. Still not going to see them. Obliterator dropped by 10 points. Probably need it. Might see them. This I don't understand. Maybe someone in the chat can tell me about it. Lord of Skulls has gone up by 15 points. I never saw him anyway.
No,
it's over 400 points.
World where Lord of Skulls meta was a thing.
Clearly, it's to go head to head against all those Astraeus.
I just don't get it. Rolling on then, Death Guard. Poxwalker's got a point increase. They probably needed it. Yay. Literally a point. Blight Lord Terminator's got 2 points. Didn't really need that. Deathstroud got 5 points. Definitely didn't need that.
Yeah,
they are pretty good, but they did not need an increase in points. Foul Blight Spawn got a 15-point increase. Yeah, that's probably fair. He's a bit too much of an auto take. The Malefic Blight Hauler got 10 points drop. I think that's probably fair. We never saw them before. Maybe we'll see them now. But I think it's unlikely because everybody's going to take the Plague Burst Crawler, which dropped 15 points. Yeah, that's a really weird one, that, isn't it?
Nobody asked for.
Nobody asked. I'm sure there are Death Guard players out there that are going to disagree with this, but the Death Guard was sitting on about a 50-50 win rate, and that felt about right. That's what you probably want to aim for. They weren't dominating, but they weren't sitting in the doldrums either. That felt about right. So this seems some really weird changes.
Yeah, go see. Mythic Blight Haulers did what? They dropped points or they went up points?
They've dropped.
I think they're really strong. I thought they were really strong before because they're 9 wounds. They're -1 damage. They've got like a 3-up, 5-up. Their toughness 7 or 8. You can give them a 4-up invulnerable and you can make them -1 to hit. And they got multi-meltas and they got like a spit. Colin always calls it like a spitty launcher, and then they're not bad in combat.
Spitty launcher.
Yeah. I
They're
don't
all
know.
right, but we weren't really seeing them. So a little drop means we might see them, but it just seems weird. I don't think they really needed any changes.
No, I don't think they needed changes either. I think
It feels really.
it's like they've taken the two
awesome.
best units, the Blight Haulers and the and the Plague Burst Crawlers, and just went, well, we make the two best units 15 points cheaper. Okay.
It just seems very strange. I'm not going to talk about this for every single faction. I'm just going to say this once. All of the Contemptor Dreadnought gun went up for all of the factions that can take it. I'm not going to keep going back to the Forge World section and say it over and over again. They've all gone up the same. So carried on then. Thousand Suns, no real changes there. Which, again, that feels about right, to be honest. I do play Thousand Suns a little bit, and they feel fairly balanced. Against some armies, they're quite strong, and against other armies, they're quite weak, which is fine if that's...
Yeah, I think they're strong.
The kind of rock, paper, scissors thing going on, I'm not a big fan of, but I don't think that's too big a deal. Chaos Demons have had some changes. Some of them we expected. Some of them we didn't. Bellacor's gone up 20 points. Absolutely rightly so. He was far too good for the points. The one Bloodthirster that cost more points has dropped down to be in line with the others. I don't know why he cost more points in the first place. Lord of Change has gone up 10 points, so Unkillable Lord of Change is still Unkillable Lord of Change, but he costs 10 more points, so that's fair. Nurglings have gone up by 3 points per base. Again, we were seeing them to the exclusion of everything else. That's kind of an understandable bit. Thomas has asked what the points cost for the Thousand Suns Contemptor is. It's the same as what it was before, except 140 points. The change has been to the Twin Volkite Culverin, which has gone up by 10 points. So they're now 15 points each instead of 5.
I've just got this vision. If we ever run out of content or things to talk about, we'll just do a video where Tony reads out the football scores.
Do you know, I don't know anything about football. I know absolutely nothing about it. It's the wrong shaped ball, and I don't give a shit. Flamers have dropped 3 points. We weren't seeing them before. We're not going to see them now. Fleshhounds have dropped 2 points. Again, same deal. We're not really seeing them before. We're still not going to see them now. Seekers, 2 points. Guess what? Still not going to see them. And the Soul Grinder's gone down 15 points. I like the Soul Grinder. It's a cool model. It's like a defiler with a demon on it. Still not going to see it, though. Chaos Knights, no changes.
The Lightning Locks went up in points, but that's Forge World, I guess.
That's Forge World. That's why I haven't said that.
What are those 3 damage guns, right?
Yeah, so if we hop over the Forge World for the Chaos Knights, there's 2 changes with them. Actually, there was a change with the other Knights. I'll mention that as well while we're on the back here. The Knight Megara went up 20 points.
Yeah.
Which is probably about right, because it was one we were seeing a lot of, and that's the same for Imperial Knight version as well. And then your Moirax Knights, the Lightning Locks have gone up 5 points, and the Volkite Velugia has also gone up 5 points. It used to be 3, and now it's not.
You need to address Mr. Gibbs' comment there, Tony.
Which rugby team do you follow, and why is it Leicester Tigers? Do you want to know genuinely, James? It is Leicester Tigers. That's not because I'm I don't know, coming on to you or something. It's because it genuinely is Leicester Tigers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As you can tell by the sheer size of me, I used to play a lot of rugby. So let's roll on then. Craftworld Elder. It feels redundant to talk about these.
It is. It's actually redundant. Skip over it completely.
You've got a month or so and you get a new codex. But all the changes are still making you not that good. Drakari, we knew about the changes already, so I won't spend too much time on this. Archon's going up 10 points. Drazar going up 10 points. Homunculus dropped 10. Succubus went up 20. She needed it. She was ridiculous. Witches have gone up a couple of points.
Drazar, Witches, and Succubus were in every list.
Yeah, exactly that. The Grotesques have dropped 5 points. We might see them a little bit more now. Incubi have gone up 2 points. They're still very well costed for what you get. Stop whinging.
Raiders still the same.
Kronos has gone up 5 points. The Ravagers dropped 10. You're still not going to take it. The Talos has dropped 10. Didn't need it. Raiders have gone up 10. And the Dark Lance has gone up as well separately. So the Dark Lance Raider is now 105 points, which feels much more in line with what it can do.
Good.
the Razor Wing and the Void Raven both drop 10 points, but if you weren't taking them before, you're not going to take them now. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see 5 raiders in our Drukhari list rather than 6.
Yeah.
So.
Harlequins are also relevant for the same reason as Craft.
Harlequins are also relevant. They only had one change anyway. It was a Void Reaver dropping 10 points.
Doesn't matter. They'll be in the new codex.
Yeah, they are, which I like that. I like the fact they've rolled Harlequins and Ynnari into the book.
Yeah.
And
Corsets.
Necrons have had a few changes. I played Necrons at the weekend and I won, and it was so bad that it was embarrassing how much I won by, and then I felt really bad at the end of it. So they've had some changes, but they're still not as good as they should be, I don't think. Flayed Ones drop 3 points. That makes them super cheap. I can see them being a bit of an action monkey now.
Yes, 100%.
Scorpec Destroyers dropping 5 points. They were pretty powerful before. 5-point drop make, I think, probably a bit of an auto take now. The Orphelion Destroyers drop 5 points. You're still not taking him. The Doomstalkers drop 10 points. Yeah, you're not taking that if you weren't taking that. The Doomsday Ark, same deal, drop 10 points. Lockhurst Destroyers down 5 and the Heavy Destroyer down 5. I quite like them, but the problem with them is that D6 damage weapon. They're just far too swingy, and they're still far too swingy, even though they're a lot cheaper. The Doomsides drop 20 points. The Nightsides drop 15 points. Again, you're probably still not taking it. The interesting change I feel to these guys is the drop to Monoliths of 30, the Obelisk of 40, the Silent King of 30, and the Tesseract Vault of 50 points. So their really big stuff has had a huge drop in points. I don't know that we're going to see it, but maybe we will. Especially the Silent King was right on the edge of being an auto take anyway.
Yeah, the King was very good, so
I think we might see him a bit more. That's a big old drop, 30 points on him.
Good. He deserves it. He's a nice big model. Very
absolutely.
good centerpiece.
They added core to a bunch of Necron units in the last data slate as well. So I think they're aware that Necrons aren't strong enough. They're making incremental changes, which I like, and hopefully they will be better soon, I guess.
I think they might be there. I think if you've got a really good player with them, I think they could be a lot more of a threat than they were 6 months ago. I'm just trying to catch up on the chat a little bit. Rezi was excited about that new White Dwarf with the free cards. Yeah, we all are, actually. I've got mine over here that I was going to use later on, probably. They were definitely a thing. If you haven't picked up that current issue of White Dwarf,
I've even gone so far as to put them all in condoms. Yes. They are all in the Magic the Gathering.
That's just weird. What? What?
What? What's wrong
Why
with that?
are you putting your cards in condoms?
Because I took
all looby.
No, what do you do with your cards? No, because I took one of the extra Chaos secondaries that I wasn't never ever going to use, and I printed out a little something to go over it. So I've made my own little Oath of Moment secondary card to just bring in there with all the rest of them as well. Because
have you laminated them then?
No, they're inside Magic the Gathering card condoms.
Like card sleeves, card protectors. That's very clever.
Okay, card protectors or sleeves. One of my mates once called them card condoms, and I can't.
Nobody calls them card condoms, Mark.
They do now because it's just stuck in my head, and I can never unhear it. It's really annoying. It's just like somebody once called the Assassin's Creed game Ass Creed, and I can just never unhear that, and it's now always that in my head, which is really annoying. Anyway, sorry, moving on.
Terrible. Going back to the chat for a minute, Flave Ones deserve the points drop as a reward for building the damn things. Also as a reward for somehow getting hold of the damn things. Flave Ones pretty good. Yeah, they are. Apparently we've got to check out Siegler's Necron video. Yeah, okay. And Necron Discord is known as a salt mine. Jesus Christ.
The Eldari Discord has got a special channel for salt people where they just banish them when they start whinging too hard. It's fucking brilliant. I love it.
What Discord's that?
The Eldari one, where I get all the Eldar leaks.
We should have one of those on the Blood Angels Commander one.
I'd be in there, honestly.
John would be in it permanently. We'll never get out of it.
We'll put it next to the Red Thirst channel. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Okay, so Orcs, we don't care because they've just had a new codex.
Yes.
Tau,
did anything actually change in Orcs?
Not really worth talking about.
Oh, the beast boss for the Orcs, the crazy one that was on the Squigosaur. I think he went up 30 points. Did he not?
I think it went up something like that. I haven't got the Orc Codex to easily check it against.
I know that the Beast Blossom Squigosaur went up, and I am very happy about that because I've played against him in a GT, and oh my god, is he strong! So yeah, I thought he was well undercosted at 145 points. So I'm pleased with Orc changes.
DTM is saying they've had a load of changes, and Dave Truman saying quite a few changes as well there. Dave, we know about the sub-faction thing. We're going to talk about that with them all later on, rather than for each individual one that it sort of impacted. So I'm sorry, I can't really be any kind of authority on the Orcs because I haven't got the Orc book. Nids, a few changes there. Harris Specs has dropped 15 points. Hiveguard went up 5 points.
Thank God, Hiveguard needed to go up. We played against people that use like 6 Hiveguard and then the stratagem so they can shoot twice.
It's just not that much fun to play against, is it?
No, it's no fun to play against at all.
Exocrines dropped 15 points. Don't know if we're going to see them yet.
However, it is also worth noting that Tyranids are next up on the board for a new codex after Craft Worlds.
Yeah, I think they've already announced it, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. That's been on GW.
Gene Stealer Colts, again, it's such a new codex. I haven't got it yet, so I'm sorry I haven't been able to do the comparisons really for that yet. But if looking back, I don't think there were too many changes to the Gene Stealer Colts, but chat can correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, DTM's put the Orc changes in there. So Beast Boss is up 30, Commandos are up 2, Kill Rigs up 20, Cans are down 5, Mega Knobs are down 5, Squig Buggies are up 20, Scrapjets are up 10, and some other stuff as well.
Do you know what? I'm also really happy about the Squig Buggies because when you compare a Squig Buggy to a Whirlwind, it's just so much better. And before they were like a third cheaper, so at least now they're getting on the same level. Yeah.
I would be shocked to not see Crusher Stampede get a nerf of some pretty significant kind.
They were a bit too dominant. They have been a little bit too
coming out of a White Dwarf and just basically taking over. They're highly likely to get hit by something in the Balance Codex, I'd expect.
Yeah, absolutely. Rezi was saying these are very strong. They are very strong. There's some interesting changes to the fortifications. Now, I'll tell you what was an interesting one. I don't know how well you can see this because we're looking at the little screen. So that's a new page you can see on John's screen there if he holds that up. But if you look at the old one, here it is. Look at the difference between this. So this is the old one. Loads of stuff. Look at the new one.
Do you know why? The difference is that the fortifications in the new chapter approved points are the ones that got new rules, updates, or reprinted in one of the campaign books, and they're missing out all the ones that didn't, and whose most current rules are still in chapter approved 2019, which was one of the last 8th edition books.
Yeah. Anyway, so changes. The Aegis defense line has gone up 20 points. Seems a bit much. It's probably to defend against all those crushers. But the Icarus las cannons drop 5 and the quad guns drop 10. The Bastion, so the big red dildo of death, has dropped by 30 points.
Did you eat one of them yet, John? Did you paint one up or anything?
I didn't order that yet, but I did order some more Forge World stuff. I can show you later.
I saw.
30-point drop on it. That's a big change. The Icarus las cannons dropped by 5 and the quad guns dropped by 10, but you're not taking them because you want to have the top patch.
And they can't shoot for shit.
The Sky Shield landing pad, those dropped by 20, so that's going to be a meta.
I saw that.
But my Thunderhawk doesn't fit on it, so...
I was about to say, you'll have to buy 3 of them, one for each landing pad.
I need one for each foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the sort of the big changes from the points. I'm having a quick look through the Forge World, see what I've missed.
Daniel says in chat he feels Hiveguard should have gone up more than 5, but
I think they should have gone up more than 5 as well. But what do I know?
I mean, if you just take 6 of them, that's 30 points. I mean, I feel like that's significant. It's weird. Points is such a weird abstract thing anyway. You know, like sometimes you could take a unit, you take a unit down like 10 points and you think like nothing changed. Sometimes you could take a unit up 15 points and be like, that was really that's a huge change, So it's like I think
it's relative to literally everything else.
On units you take in large numbers, I think a little changes actually adds up a little bit, but I still think they could have done with going up a little bit more than that. Other 4-droid changes that we haven't mentioned yet: Dracaris, Reapers, and Tantalus. So the Reaper went down 10, the Tantalus went down 30. Nobody's taken them. Orcs cannon wagons dropped by 20. The Squigoth dropped by 20. The Gargantuan Squigoth dropped by 50 points. I really want one of these.
It's a great model.
It's such a cool model. The Custom Stomper dropped by 50 points as well. Sure. And the Tyranids, the Dimacaron, went up by 25 points.
Good.
Very good. That thing was nasty as all hell.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just having a quick look at the chat again. Aegis is nice to screen Manticores from charges by being 1.1 inch away from the hull.
Maybe you could say that indirect fire is kind of like snipers in that it's difficult to get quite right on the fine line of balance to being OP or being shit and useless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Rezi was. I do agree with you actually, Rezi. I quite like some. I like the idea of that. Indirect fire is powerful, but what I don't want it to become is we all hide behind buildings and bomb each other from out of sight.
One thing Craftworld Eldar are good at right now, before the Codex update, is they have some incredibly good indirect fire. So whether that gets maintained or not, it's going to be interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. I've seen a few of the new Craftworld stuff. I like it. It does once again lean itself to like, I guess the Avatar is like going to take half damage from things. So it seems like the rules wings in general of like them reducing damage by 1 or giving units half damage seem to be very, very prominent. It seems to be, it seems to be one of the things they've latched onto the most in 9th, I think it would be fair to say.
From all the variety of leaks, I've seen a lot of Craftworld Eldar. What I haven't seen stratagems, really, or factions.
So. I suspect that when Craftworld Eldar come out, they're going to be properly meta-changing. I said that about the Tau, and it's leaning that way that it could be. I'll be getting the Tau book on Saturday, so I'll have a proper look for it then. So let's move on then. Let's look at the other book.
Yes, and I'm playing Tau on Monday night, apparently.
They're very powerful at the moment.
If Andrew takes those 2 tanks he showed on your Facebook, then they can't move because one of them, the engines are pacing backwards, and the other one didn't have any engines at all on the model. So not good. Can't have them.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna look at the other book now.
Go for it. So army building rules changes. There's a few of them. GW have marketed the fact that they can take Lords of War at slightly less of a CP hit than you could previously, which is stupid because they actually put that in the last chapter proof, so it's not a change. That was already there before.
It really confused me for a minute. I was rereading it going, is that changed?
No.
But it hasn't. It's the same as it was last time.
But then again, maybe it was just drawing attention to it if people hadn't noticed it last time. So in which case, cool, fine. All good. The big thing is probably banning different sub-faction keywords within your army, which I love. I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's brilliant. I like seeing... I just think it looks better on the tabletop. I know people have come up with all sorts of fluff reasons that 2 different guard regiments are going to fight together, and they absolutely still can if you've got a good fluff reason. It's called narrative.
The main reason is it's easier to balance the game if you're not having to worry about souping things in and unintended consequences of mixing this, that, and the other in that weren't intended to be mixed. So for a match play point of view change, I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's I really do like it. I think it's good for sisters. I got fed up with seeing the Argent Shroud shooty bit with the Bloody Rose smashy bit. It just didn't fit. It just didn't work properly. I don't think we really saw it with Space Marines, but we were definitely seeing it with sisters. We were definitely seeing it with the Grey Knights so that you could run an extra Dread Knight, which I'm absolutely glad to see. I don't want to ever see 2 Grandmasters on the table again. It makes no sense from a fluff point of view.
Yep.
So I'm glad they got rid of that. Absolutely 100% on board with it. I know it's weakened a few armies, but I think it probably was worth it.
As we discussed briefly on a Blood Angels Commander painting live stream the other week, fortifications have also been changed in that if you have taken a fortification in your army and there is no room to deploy it because it has to be 3 inches away from any other piece of terrain, then you are allowed to remove a piece of terrain that is within your deployment zone and place the terrain in the space that's been made
Where
for
was
it.
that mentioned in the book? Because I think we maybe got that wrong on the live stream that we did.
Really? Oh, sorry.
Someone put in a comment that you have to deploy the fortification first, and there might
you have to try to deploy the fortification first. If you can fit the fortification, then you're not allowed to remove a piece of terrain. If you cannot fit the fortification, only then are you allowed to remove a piece of terrain.
I see. Yeah, so maybe I missed that part. Where about in the book did it say that? About deploying fortifications?
It's summarised on the very, very first page on the introduction. There's a brief note about it in there. But in the actual placing your terrain thing, don't know. It's going to be in there somewhere. I'd look it up, but you guys appear to be looking it up. That makes for a really poor view for our viewers. So,
All right, yeah, it does mention here. It says, finally, we've made some changes to deploy fortifications with a view to making it easier to set large models within your deployment zone, placement of which in the past was sometimes problematic. Yeah. Okay, so we'll come to it when we find it. But yeah.
We found it. Page 6, right-hand column in the middle, section 11, deploy armies. Second paragraph.
Yep. When setting up a model from a unit with the fortification battlefield role on the battlefield, if it can not be set up within 3 inches of other terrain features that
Cheers, James.
is not part of its own data sheet, excluding hills, if it's not possible to set up fortification as a result, a player can, in Warzone Nat 1 Grand Tournament mission, remove one obstacle or terrain feature that is within a deployment zone from the battlefield. See, that's the interesting part that says that is within their deployment zone. It doesn't say wholly within.
Yeah.
So you can remove a piece that actually stretches out with your deployment zone.
It's only partially in your DZ. Yes,
yep.
That's correct.
From the battlefield in order to make room for the fortification. If by doing so it's still not possible to set up a fortification and replace the terrain feature, this fortification cannot be destroyed and counts as... Sorry, cannot be deployed and counts as being destroyed.
Which is fair enough.
I still don't think we're going to see too many fortifications. Sisters, they might like their battle sanctums more because it's a great big lump of obscuring terrain that you can plonk down wherever you need it. But I don't think we're really going to see too many changes.
I love the idea. I want to make it work. I just can't quite figure out how to make it work. So I'll spend some more brain sweat on it and we'll see how it goes.
Something I do want to talk about, though, is have you guys looked at the conceding rules and the changes there?
Have not.
Now, this is a very small change, but I really think it's very, very significant. So it's not unheard of for people to talk out the end of a game.
Yep.
If you know there's nothing you can do, and you go, right, it's the end of turn 3, so we'll call it there, and then you walk out what's going to happen. You know, there's no way I can stop it. You're going to move your troops onto that point, and you're going to calculate how many victory points you would have got.
Yep.
Now, you can no longer do that in a tournament setting. So I'm going to read this to you for a second. So if both players agree to end the battle early, then they can end the battle at a mutually agreed point. The players then calculate their final victory point totals, taking into account any objectives achieved so far to determine the victor. That means not what will be coming later, but what you've already achieved.
Good.
Can't get any more from them. I think it's probably a good thing because it means the battles are more likely to be carried on.
There are instances where experienced players like to use their expertise. Some experienced players have been known to use their expertise to try and talk things through and run roughshod over maybe less experienced players to get the game to play out how they want it to play out if they'd had the time to do so.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with that. Now, the bit that worries me a little bit is this second part here. Now, if only one player wants to end the battle early, that player must concede and remove their models from the battlefield. A player who concedes scores 0 victory points for that battle. Their opponent is the victor, and they can, if they wish, calculate their final victory points total, taking into account any objective achieved so far. If their score from primary and secondary objectives is less than 60 victory points, increase that player's score to 60 victory points. This will be boosted to 70 if that player's army is painted to a battle-ready standard. Now, this is where I have a problem because in your general game with your mates, this is going to have no effect whatsoever. Where it could have an effect is, say we're in a tournament or some sort of ladder system where they're using the victory points rather than the wins to calculate your top table. Now, I'm sure people wouldn't, but I bet someone does. If you are a particularly vindictive player and you were playing against Richard Siegler or whatever, and you getting hammered in your first 2 turns, you can concede and cap him at 60 victory points, which in those sort of really high level tournaments where to get on that top table, you need that kind of 80, 90 points, would potentially prevent them from getting up the top and winning the tournament.
That breaks
the thing to do.
That breaks the don't be a dick rule, though. And if
absolutely
that ever
breaks
happened
the
in
don't be a dick rule.
a big tournament like the LVO or something else, that would be under review from the various TOs, and nobody
I would hope so. But if you're playing at a proper GW tournament at Warhammer World, they'll play this as written.
Maybe.
That's not a good thing. I really dislike this change because it does mean that you can, as an opponent, I'm losing, so I'm going to screw you over and keep you off that top table. I'm sure 99.9% of people would never do that
unless they're using the differential scoring, which I kind of think is better anyway, right? You know, where it's like... So in a differential scoring, you would win that game 20-0. You would win because each 5 points is like a swing of two tournament points, right? So in the differential scoring, if I had 70 and you had 0, I win 20-0, which is fine. I think I prefer the differential scoring anyway to straight victory points because, like straight victory points is very one-dimensional. Differential scoring counts on how you did against the opponents, you know?
If we got to a point where somebody actually did that in a game, someone deliberately tanked their own game to sabotage somebody else's, then I'll give it some credence. It's a danger, but the chances of that happening, if I hear about it happening, then I'll give it some sort of credibility.
I suspect that it will happen once.
I don't think anybody's really quite.
A tournament will immediately go. We've got people here saying tournaments are already ignoring those rules, and I think you're right. They will ignore those rules. But if it happens at a GW1, then it will happen once before they FAQ that. But I still don't like it, and I can't believe that no one looked at that and thought, I don't think we should put this rule in.
Maybe
it's not necessary because in a normal game it doesn't affect anything anyway.
Maybe they think better of the players. It's possible.
Maybe. But yeah, so just look at a couple of the comments and things here. My status is online. Will this channel ever expand in running some BA battle reps? Well, the BA battle reps are mostly over on John's channel. We might put some general battle reps. We might feature BA at some point. And if we ever get the chance, we're going to play a big 3-way brawl, which will be a laugh. Robert's building his Thunderhawk meta. It will be a thing. What else we got? Question for John: if a man speaks in the forest and his wife is not there to hear him, is he still wrong?
I don't know why I'm wrong, but I guess sure. A man speaks in the forest, he can be wrong.
Yeah.
At least I don't add an extra damage to my guns. At least I do that, right?
What else have we got? Mostly people are just saying nobody's going to follow that rule, and I think you're right. It's like nobody follows the 10 points of painted army.
Sometimes they do.
No, you only do it when you're trying to wind up someone like Andrew who might not have painted all his stuff.
Yeah.
The other major rule that's been changed are all the secondaries. We're not going to go over them in detail here because we've done that previously. There is a link in the video chat if you wish to review our detailed discussion about secondaries.
There might not be that link yet, but it will definitely be done tonight.
It's already there.
There is.
There. Thank you so much. Okay,
no
cool.
worries. I had a look at that and sorted that, so it's fine.
You're leveling up your YouTube skills. I love it.
Oh, yeah, baby. Which brings us on to the missions, which are all radically changed and I think are going to be a colossal shake-up to the metagame in how people write their lists and what they want to take into account in their lists. Because these things are so different to how they were before. Different.
Will we jump to the Strike Force missions? Because then that's really what we're here.
Oh, yeah. I'm not. we're not going to look at the 1,000-point missions. It's kind of
Okay,
pointless.
and Rezio,
If
he's
you want
taking
us to
the.
start looking more at 1,000-point stuff, if you let us know in the chat or in the comments and stuff, and we'll start focusing more on it. We're making an assumption that people watching this are going to be more interested in the Strike Force, but I do know there's a lot of people who play smaller games out there, so they might have more of an impact. But
We could
brevity's
definitely,
sake,
we could come back to do a second video on the Strike Force missions in the future.
Yeah,
That
we
wouldn't
could
be a
do so.
problem.
Tony did a crap load of research on all the point stuff. I've done a crap load of research on all the mission stuff, gone through them, put on my thoughts and things on every mission by mission. So this might go on a while, but if it does, then I'm sure somebody can try and punch me and we'll deal with it from there. Initial thoughts on missions. I had to come up with a way to talk about what used to be an optional secondary but is now included in the primaries. So, as my way of shorthand, I now call them primary plus.
Okay, cool.
Because
cool.
it's just what I started calling them. So when I call them primary plus, and you don't know what the fuck I'm on about, that's what I'm on about.
I think you should copyright that term. It sounds cool.
Oh yeah, we'll go with that. I worked out how much the addition of these primary plus objectives into primaries alongside the actual objectives, and the objective drops from 5 each to 4 each, and how that affects your game, and worked a few things out. If you max your primary plus, which is, let's say, is worth 15 VPs out of your primaries, that means you only need to score 30 from holding objectives throughout the entire game, which is holding 2 of those 3 categories of objectives every game. So if you do hold 1 and hold 2, hold 1 and hold 2, hold 1 and hold 2 for 4 turns, that gives you 30 points. Then you max out your primary plus, and that's you maxed in the 45 in the primary category.
Well, that actually gives you 32, and you always just cap at 45, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I guess if you can be don't want to say you can relax, but you can go a little bit less hard.
Bit more space. And if you max out the holding objectives bit, where you do hold 1, 2, hold more for 4 turns, that gives you 48 points in primary, capped at 45. So you can then, if you wish, completely ignore the primary plus objective.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I did it this week against Andrew's Knights, where I was not doing that well in holding objectives, but I was setting up bombs in his deployment zone, and those bombs gave me 8 points, which in turn meant that I capped the primary.
That bombing mission looks mental.
That's fun. It's good fun, actually, the bombing mission.
I like the change because it means you haven't got to just build for holding points. You can start thinking about holding points and doing other things, which is nice. It adds a little bit more variety. Overall, before we go, I love these new missions. I think they're great. I think the changes to the way that the points work on them make it really, really fun. There is, yes, a fair bit more bookkeeping and that, but it's worth it for me. I think they're great.
So, mission 1-1, recover the relics, is
we covered this in our video the other day, didn't we?
Yeah, but I've got a few more little thoughts on it now.
Just want to do it twice. You cut out the secondaries because we've already done them.
Oh, shush you. So 6 objectives, 1 in your DZ, 2 objectives which are 4 inches into no man's land within walking distance of foot troops. You only get CP each turn for holding an objective in no man's land or the enemy's DZ. So you've got to move out if you want to get CP during the game. The primary plus objective is killing units for extra points. So if you are taking many, many different units in your army, then that is bad for this mission. So essentially, in summary, you want to hold your own deployment zone. You want to protect it to stop your opponent getting extra CP. You want to move 4 inches out from your own DZ to hold 3 objectives in turn 1. And then maybe have a little bit of shooting to shoot some enemies off their objectives, or have a bit of melee threat to charge forward and wipe them off their objectives. So if you can castle on your back 3 objectives and keep the enemy only on 2 throughout the entire game, you're sorted on that one. So there's some synergy there on Stranglehold, because that will have you holding 3 and shooting or taking your opponent off an objective or 2. And this mission is also very strong with Raise the Banners.
Yeah,
it's one of the few that is useful with Raise the Banners.
I was going to say, in a Space Marine context, this mission is actually kind of strong with Oath of Moment, in that, like an Oath, you're usually trying to kill a vehicle, monster, or character every turn. and doing so will give you a point for Oath, but will also give you a point for your primary plus.
It's one of the ones that I'm not recommending Oaths for because there is not an objective in the middle of the board.
You don't need the middle, and a lot of Oath is hold the middle and then do these extra bits.
So something I was going to go to later. Previously, it was only 2 or 3 of the 9 missions had an objective in the middle of the board. That has now changed to 6 of the 9 missions now have 5 objectives, which includes one in the center of the board. So a lot more of these missions are now much more useful for Oaths of Moment and Stranglehold than they used to be previously.
Okay.
Which is very interesting because Oaths of Moment is always a powerful secondary objective for Space Marines anyway. Any of you guys want to say anything about this mission before I jump on to the next one?
I know I said everything in the last video we did on it.
Just you. All right, cool. Number 2, the one with the bombs. Tear down their icons.
Yes.
Number 12.
It's so cool.
Oh, it's lovely. 5 objectives.
And I think you can just about squeeze a Thunderhawk on the table, so you haven't got to leave it alone doing nothing for the first turn.
That's a critical point that we're glad you made. Thank you, Tony. Cheers.
People like big stuff.
We
Just
do like
saying.
big stuff. I like this one a lot. I've played this one this week, and setting up the bombs in the opponents. It's not their deployment zone; it's their half of the map.
Yes.
So you can be
it's their territory.
Pretty sneaky here. I deployed a squad of incursors from strategic reserve behind a building that Andrew couldn't get to without pulling his knights off objectives, and then just had them start setting up multiple bombs because there's no stipulation on like if bombs can be set up next to each other or anything.
There is.
So
There is.
oh, is there?
There is a stipulation. Yeah, they
I
cannot
missed
be
that.
set up within 9 inches of each other.
Oh well, I fucked that.
So hang on. Does that mean you cheated in that game, John?
Ooh.
I mean, I still won by 30 points. I'm sure it'll be alright.
So, Tear Down Their Icons has got 5 objectives. 1 in deployment zone, 1 in the centre, which is roughly 13-ish or so inches from your DZ. It's got 1 objective 7 inches from the DZ. So, immediately the map is friendly to Oaths of Moment. And the 7 inches and 13-ish inches distance from DZ, if you want to run towards those other 2 objectives, is sort of like jump pack or bike move, sort of friendly level distance if you want to zoom forward and get those. The objectives are hold 1, hold 2, and hold more. The primary plus is to set objectives in the enemy territory. They have to be 9 inches apart, preferably OBSEC, because if you do it with an OBSEC unit, the action to set the explosives completes in your turn,
Do you know
which
what?
is critical.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's interesting, actually. Can I just jump in there? They have to be 9 inches apart, right? But when you finish the action, you place the token 3 inches away from your squad.
Yep.
So what I should have done, and what I could have actually done, is if my squad was on like the north edge of the map here, I could put the primed explosive 3 inches to the north of them, and then in my next turn, I could have just moved 6 inches south and then put a primed objective 3 inches down. But yeah, I mean, I guess my plan was to just have them in concealed position and set up multiple bombs, which I guess was invalid. It wouldn't have actually changed, but maybe not quite as strong as I thought it was.
To max the primary plus, you must place an objective every turn, and you must ensure that any explosives your opponent places are all disarmed. That is the only way you can max the primary plus objective on this. Otherwise, you're not going to get your full 15. So in this one, your strength comes from mobility and a high number of units to be able to run around, get in all sorts of places your enemy can't keep you out, place these objectives, and disarm your enemy's explosives objectives.
See, I really like that because some missions are going to reward you for going really MSU and bringing lots and lots of action monkeys, and then other missions are going to penalise you for it.
Yeah.
There's no optimal way to build an army for the missions, and I think that's brilliant.
And doing so with OBSEC, making them critical to doing this is very good, because you're incentivized for bringing troops which are generally not great.
Yeah, another thing to say is you can, in turn 5, it would have to be a troops unit that sets up the bomb, because it doesn't have that. Like it completes in your command phase. You don't have a command phase after turn 5.
Indeed.
So if you don't have troops in turn 5, then you can't set up any primed explosives.
You might want to consider placing explosives near the board edge because you've just brought something on from strategic reserves to do so. However, if you do that, then they're vulnerable to your opponent bringing something on from strategic reserves and just disarming them really quickly and easily. So that's something to bear in mind whether or not the risk is worth it to you.
And OBSEC always guarantee a disarm.
The 2 CP a turn stratagem that Marines get to do an action and shoot is going to be bloody gold in this mission.
Yeah,
it's going to be really
most
useful.
Armies have got some sort of equivalent. Tau are going to be really good at this because they've got a lot of ways of doing that sort of thing, it seems.
Rumour has it that Eldar Dire Avengers are going to be able to do it as well, just in general, which would be nice for them. Maybe this is a bad mission for you to take retrieve Nakmund data in because you're going to be overloaded with stuff doing actions all over the board. And there's going to be a high demand for OBSEC. You're going to want OBSEC to do the explosives. You're going to want OBSEC to do the retrieve Nakmund data. Maybe you want to avoid retrieve Nakmund data for this mission. I'd recommend.
Well, Andrew must just be bad because I managed.
Fair enough.
No, I don't know if 10 Knights is the most versatile list, to be honest.
No, that's fair enough. In summary, I'd conclude that Oaths a Moment, the Stranglehold is a really good combo in this mission. You might want to approach this mission with 3 groups of units to hold objectives and 2 or more mobile ranged murder groups to go around and blow the crap out of your opponents and hopefully place some explosives while they do it.
Yeah. I love that mission. I know
this is great.
It's so much fun. You know, as much as I whinge about the cost of this book, and it was far too much money, and I'm not trying to take away from that, the new missions are absolutely brilliant. They are absolutely blinding. Really, really good. Oh,
is that me or is that somebody else?
That's somebody who's got their phone next to the...
Nope. If that was me, I apologise.
That's me because I don't hear anything.
Fair enough. The mission... Oh, for Christ's sake.
Mission 13?
Yeah, Mission 13, Data Scry Salvage, is a mission with 6 objectives. Let's turn airport mode on. That maybe that'll work if it's my phone anyway. 6 objectives, 1 in the deployment zone, 4 straight across the middle of no man's land. All of these 4 objectives are 12 inches away from your DZ. So if you want to run forward and get those objectives, you're going to need to do so with a jump pack unit or a bike unit. Or something similarly fast, like a land speeder, perhaps. The objective scoring here is hold 2, hold 3, and hold more. To max the primary plus, you've got to do an action every turn with a unit at your home deployment zone objective, whilst other units control 3 objectives within no man's land. If you don't do that, you cannot max primary plus.
Yeah.
Which is really hard. Because you're committing to taking and holding 4 objectives to be able to max that. And if you're doing that, then you're probably winning the game anyway.
Yeah.
I think the way to approach this one would be to take 2, like focus the north or the south of the map, and then if you get 10 points out of the primary plus, try and make up the rest from actually holding primaries.
I'd agree with that. However, that's countered by once you hold an objective with an OBSEC unit, specifically with an OBSEC unit, you can then move off and the unit is still yours until something else takes it.
Yeah.
So reserves are going to be important for jumping on abandoned objectives that your opponent has moved on from because they want to try and control more.
Yeah, and this is a control 2, control 3 map.
Yeah, hold 2, hold 3, hold more. Yeah.
No points
things
for
like
holding 1.
Wings of Fire. Upon Wings of Fire is going to be quite useful for this as well.
Yep.
Being able to take things off and drop them back down even in the late game is going to be really quite powerful.
Protecting your home objective is going to be absolutely critical because without it, you can't do the actions to score any points for the primary plus objective. So, bearing that in mind, maybe you want to take a couple of aircraft. Maybe you want to synergize with behind enemy lines and relentless assault in order to zoom forward and shoot the ever-living crap out of your opponent's home objective. If you can cripple them holding their home objective...
Can I just check this, Mark, that you're saying Thunderhawk meta?
No, I said aircraft.
Thunderhawk meta.
So, dumb question.
Yes.
1 unit for your Margain of start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase. That doesn't stipulate that it needs to be... So any unit? A character could do it? A vehicle?
Any unit. However, there are some units that inherently cannot do actions, and those are aircraft and fortifications. Anything else is fair game to do this action with. That include a whirlwind, for example.
Yeah, that's interesting.
A lot of the missions, a lot of the primary plus objectives in this book do not have a requirement for only infantry. Death Company can't do actions, but they're not in the core book saying so. So I didn't pass that. So ultimately, the summary of this is you want to have strong defense for your home objective or mobility to respond to it if it's threatened by your opponent. You might want to secure one of the outer objectives and then move in towards the middle ones, but be wearing enemy reserves in order to take any objectives that you've abandoned if they've got things in reserve or deep strike. So you possibly want 3 objective holding groups and one or more melee murder groups if you're doing so, to be able to move through, mulch things, and then hold an objective while doing so. And maybe a response group to move back and take an objective if it gets taken by enemy reserves or something.
Interesting.
That's kind of what I'm thinking for this one.
Okay. Cool. Moving on. Number 21.
Right. 21. Abandoned Sanctuaries.
5 objective map.
Yep. This one has 1 in the deployment zone, 3 across the middle of no man's land, all of them 12 inches from deployment zone. Because the objective is in the middle, that once again makes it a very Oaths of Moment friendly map. This is also a hold 1, hold 2, or hold more mission. One of the special things here is that even if you've got special WASI things like incursors or infiltrators or anything like that, they cannot set up at all outside of your deployment zone. If you've got a pre-game move before the first battle round, but after turn roll or anything like that, if you've got Death Company, Forlorn Fury, tough shit. You cannot move out of your deployment zone.
I really don't like this.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I don't even run Death Company. I'm not a fan.
The thing I'm not a fan of is it's taking something that you've paid points for, because you pay those extra points for your incursors, your infiltrators and whatnot, so that you can do this. And it said, no, you've just wasted those points because when you rolled for the mission, you rolled this one.
Your opponent has the same limitation as well, and it is a factor that you need to be aware of in your list so that you cannot build your list to rely on that to nuke an opponent.
But I do think there's some armies that can do this and some armies that can't do this, and you are still paying for that.
There are some armies that can heavily redeploy, and it neuters that benefit to them quite heavily.
True.
A lot more than it does Blood Angels and Forlorn Fury. A lot more.
Okay, so what's the primary plus, Mark? Tell us about that.
This is a big battle for the middle objective. Literally, the middle objective scores fucking everything. This will be a huge furball where everybody goes in for the middle and tries and hold the middle as much as they possibly can because it scores all the points from the primary plus. And if you're taking Oath of Moment, then you have extra points for that. And then if you take Stranglehold, you can have extra points for holding more objectives. So it's just going to get a huge fucking brawl and meat grinder in the middle of the map, ultimately. So maybe you want to consider holding one of the side objectives, holding your home objective, take Oath of Moment, Stranglehold, go all in on the center objective and just lean into that. That's one way of doing it. Maybe therefore you take 2 objective holding groups, 1 mega tooled up objective group to go into the middle with murder death support.
Yeah, and there's a special rule right down here at the very end that says at the end of the battle.
Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah, I don't know whose phone it is.
I mean, I'm using my phone.
Someone's
here,
phone.
Oh, sorry about that. My apologies if that was mine. It shouldn't be.
It's
But
mine.
there we go.
At the end of the battle, whichever player controls the objective marker in the center of the battlefield scores 5 victory points. It's apparently my computer. So
Yeah, it must be your phone, John. You've got your phone near your computer or something.
Fair enough. I mean, I do on mine, but I've set mine on airplane mode because I'm using it for reading all these notes and whatnot.
Mine's off.
if I mess with this, I'd probably lose the stream. So
Yes.
Okay.
Where we've got the screen looking down because we're using your phone, it's just been a dick.
Fair enough.
Sorry, everybody
All right.
watching.
Cool.
You're gonna have to put up with horrible noises.
Well, We'll hope it doesn't happen too much.
Yeah, so at the end of the battle, you get another 5 points if you hold the middle for your primary plus.
Yeah. So in this mission, everything revolves around the middle objective.
Big advantage to go in second as well, then, on this mission.
Mm-hmm.
In that...
Problem is, if he puts that on airplane mode, does that turn off the video feed?
I actually have no idea.
It will if your Wi-Fi. You can have it on. You can have it. You want on airplane mode, but your Wi-Fi turned back on. Now we're going to be sitting there in the dark.
In the dark.
And hopefully it's going to pick back up when he turns his Wi-Fi back on.
That'll be fine. All right.
But we can still keep talking. Hopefully the picture will come back in a moment.
No worries. Please forgive us this minor technical hitch in order to save your earphones.
And mine.
Abandoned Sanctuaries is a big furball for the objective in the middle. You kind of can't get away from it, so you probably just want to go all in with the primary plus Oaths of Moment, Stranglehold, and try and hold it at all costs and have a big fight against your opponent, as you're almost certainly trying to do the same. Which will be fun.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. Mission number 22 is called Conversion. This is another 5 objective map. You have 1 in your deployment zone, you have 1 in the center, only 9 inches from your DZ this time. There is 1 objective 12 inches from your DZ and 1 objective 15 inches from your DZ. So if you want to be able to reach out and jump and get to any of those objectives, you need to be doing so with jump pack or bike sort of level movement speeds to be able to reach them. This is another Oaths of Moment friendly map because it has an objective in the middle. It's a hold 1, hold 2, and hold more. You only get CP at the start of a turn if your Warlord is on the board. They can be in a transport, but they must be on the board one way or another. So if your Warlord is in Deep Strike Reserves, you ain't getting CP at the start of your turn.
If he's lying dead on the board, do you get CP?
No. Which I quite like because it's kind of, it incentivizes you not to, try and hide him off, but at the same time, you got to protect him a little bit. The thing I don't like about this mission, the only thing I really don't like about this mission is that blasted circle in the middle.
Well, it's interesting because
about the mission, it's just an absolute pain in the ass when you deploy him.
It's marking out a DZ is a bugger. It's interesting though that this means that there's an 18-inch gap between opposing deployment zones rather than the usual 24. So it's a lot easier for you to jump over there and kill them if you are so inclined.
A pretty guaranteed turn 1 charge if you want it.
Currently, my status, we have no way to donate to this particular channel yet. We've considered putting a Patreon up for it. Maybe a bit later, maybe sooner rather than later. Still not too sure on that one. But for the moment, not for this channel yet until we reach 1,000, I think is when it works. John knows a lot more about that stuff than me.
Yeah, soon. I would say soon it's coming. But appreciate the support nonetheless. For the moment, like it.
Or if you're desperate to donate to John through Blood Angels Commander with the rider that he has to give it to both of us, and that'll work as well.
He won't do that. He'll spend all the money on deep fried Mars bars and Iron Brew.
Or Ralderon models to give away to his subscribers. Yeah. We see how it goes.
Funky Forge World models. Which I was actually going to unbox one of them, I think, for the competition. Just so people can see what they can win.
Cool.
You just want to open the box because you haven't got one. Want to know what's in it.
Someone will get the rejected one, I guess. The one that's been opened to have a look inside,
On your phone, John.
That's fine. It stopped again.
I'm sorry. I did put on Do Not Disturb. I don't know how to turn on airplane mode.
It happened a lot shorter this time, so maybe we just have to suck it up.
All right. So
anyway, mission 22. We've gone through that thing. You only get CP if your Warlord is on the board and alive.
Corrupted Ground is the primary plus.
Indeed, where you score points to control all the objectives, basically. At the end of each player's turn.
4 for the enemy's deployment zone, 2 for no man's land, and you lose 1 if you do not hold your own deployment zone. So you can
a minimum of 1.
So your priorities are to defend your own objective, just as with a few of the other ones. You want to hold at least one of the 3 in no man's land. And if you can take the enemy's home objective, then you're kind of laughing, which is pretty cool. But then again, if you're taking your enemy's objective, you're also kind of winning anyway. So again,
No, I don't know. It's entirely true. If you're playing something like Knights or something where it's hard to, I was thinking with the last mission, the Abandoned Sanctuaries, I want to play Custodes there, and I'm going to take a big long line in the middle and say, "Come at me." But in this one, especially where I've really got to hold a unit back and I don't have many units, that's a real risk. So for more numerous armies, then sure, yeah. But for some of the little ones, and that's more of a problem. Balanced budget. I want to see a low point game where everyone's drunk. Yeah, so do I.
We should play a game where every time you lose a model, you have to take a shot.
maybe we need to stop doing the phone thing. Maybe. Oh, it's stopped now.
I feel like I'm going to get a twitch. Do you remember Men in Black, the first one, where there's that guy who's wearing the skin and he's just like...
How come the phone never does this when I'm live streaming on my channel, or does it and just nobody says anything about it?
It does, but we're all too nice to say anything.
Okay.
That's unlikely. Right. So, in summary, to win at 22, you might want to do something like have 3 objective groups, maybe one of them being extra defensible for holding your home objective, and 1 or more murder groups to go around and kill your enemies holding their objectives that they're trying to, so that you score more and they score less. Fairly straightforward. No particular focus on OBSEC on this one, but it is Osa Moment friendly and therefore also possibly Stranglehold friendly at the same time, if you're doing it.
Cool.
Okay. 23. The Scouring. Thankfully not the same Scouring it was.
No, it has improved. There is a chance that I might be able to deploy some of my army now.
So this Scouring... Okay.
Yeah, keep speaking.
Anyways. So this Scouring is a 5 objective mission. None of them are in your deployment zone in a break from change. One of them is in the center, which is 12 inches from your deployment zone. 2 of them are in no man's land, 3 inches from your deployment zone within infantry walking distance to make up for the fact that none of them are in your DZ. And 2 of them are 21 inches from your deployment zone. So if you want to reach those, you want to be advancing with the bike or land speeder, unless you're deploying advanced stuff out there to try and get them. But then again, you're going to be way within 9 inches of the enemy DZ, so that will be very difficult, sadly. It's a hold 1, hold 2, and hold more mission. Because it's a 5 objective map, it is once again very synergistic with Osa Moment and Stranglehold. The primary plus here is to do an action on every single one of these 5 objectives over the course of the game. However, any unit can do it, except units that specifically can't, like Death Company and the Flyers and Fortifications and whatnot. And there is no role needed to perform that action.
Interesting.
Nice. So,
interesting.
No
stipulation like the enemy doesn't have to have models on the objective or anything like that. It's
no
just...
enemies can be within range of the objective. However, and this is something that fucks me off a little bit about this book, it doesn't specify what range of the objective is. It says no enemies can be within range, but what distance is range?
I imagine it would just be the standard 3 inches from objectives, right?
Yeah. In lack of it being specified, that's the only thing that I can go from to clarify what that would be and how I would expect to work it. So there we go.
I think you're right, Highland Phoenix. I think it was connecting with cellular data, so I've turned that off. So hopefully,
you should be able to score this a couple of times, maybe 3. If you're really lucky, you'll be able to score it 4 times. I'd be shocked if you managed to score this 5 times to be able to max out on the primary plus. So holding objectives is basically critical to be able to max primaries objective points rather than maxing the primary plus in this particular mission.
So going back a little bit.
Yep.
If we hold 2 on most, in any, if we hold, on the maps that's hold 1, hold 2, if you just assume that you can get 8 points, turn 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Then if you get 13 points from the primary plus, that caps you at 45. So in this case, where like you could do 2 and potentially 3 pretty easy and get 9, you're talking like you're getting 41 points from primaries there just for holding. This is a 5 objective map. You actually only need to hold 2 and do the action 3 times to get 41 points. That's pretty legit in terms of
especially if you're taking oaths a moment at the same time and you're going for the middle one as well.
Yeah, or if you're going for one of the more defensive armies, so people like Death Guard, Custodes, and that are going to love missions like this.
Yeah, Dark Angels are going to be in ecstasy, aren't they?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
One thing that is worth noting off the back of all of this, well, there's a couple of things actually that's worth noting off the back of this. If you get the first turn, zoom a little throwaway bike or land speeder unit forward with advance 20 inches, get in range of one of the objectives close to your enemy's deployment zone, and scan that in turn 1 just to get a nice little cheeky scan in an objective you're not likely to get otherwise.
Yeah.
It'll cost you some points, but if you've got a land speeder that you're happy to throw away or a small unit of bikes, then that's some like, little points you might not.
I wanted to bring up land speeders. You remember how like a year ago you all started giving me shit for saying land speeders are better than attack
I'm
bikes
only saying
and,
land speeders now to keep you
ATVs.
happy. I'm far more interested in bikes at the moment.
John made a whole stream where he's like, "No, Tony's wrong. ATVs are where it's at."
The other point that I've noticed on this one is that there is literally zero reason whatsoever for the enemy to be in their deployment zone in this game.
Very true.
Therefore, you have massive amounts of synergy if you want to take it with behind enemy lines or relentless assault.
And teleport homers.
And teleport homers. So that's something to bear in mind as options for secondaries in this mission. So to summarise, you want a minimum of probably 3 objective groups, assuming you're taking oaths, and the usual 1 or more murder groups and 1 or more mobile action groups to zoom around and do actions at the objectives that you've been holding in order to succeed and win at this mission.
This one never had objectives in your deployment zone previously as well, did it?
Didn't pay much attention to it, I'll be honest with you.
Okay, I feel like it didn't, so...
I've thrown my old book away. I've completely forgotten what was in
I've got it here, actually. Sorry.
It'd be
I
interesting.
don't want to know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try this with, like... I don't know, you could do this with, like, a land speeder storm and a squad of scouts.
Yeah, land speeder storm. You're absolutely fine. You can do it with a storm. You don't need scouts. What do you need scouts for?
This is such a better book. And rules in it. So at least you can just use it for...
The one before was better because it had the ring binder, which is much better. Anyway.
It was a much nicer quality book as well, wasn't it?
Let me clarify. If you had a land speeder storm with a squad of scouts, land speeder storm can arrive in the opponent's DZ in turn 2 because it's got the outflank keyword. So you arrive there, you unload the scouts perform teleport homers, you get 2 units in their deployment zone, so you just instantly score 8 points. 4 for relentless assault, 4 for teleport homers, right?
Yeah, I don't see any logical issue with that.
When does teleport homers complete?
You probably want behind enemy lines rather than relentless assault, because behind enemy lines kicks off if you put 2 units in there, whereas relentless assault you need more units than they do. But yeah, that's kind of horses for courses.
Yeah, but if there's no reason for them to be...
Oh no, Dave's got a fair point in there. Scouts aren't troops, so they won't complete teleport homers during your turn.
Yeah, they need to deplete it in the next person's turn. Okay.
Yeah.
So you could deploy. You could pretty much unload them into concealed position.
I mean, start them in your DZ and advance the storm forward, and then have the scouts get out 3 inches, and then move another 6.
I don't think they can get out if it's advanced. Because it's got that assault vehicle rule, which says you can...
Oh, is that a normal move only?
You can normal move, yeah.
Well, how far is a storm move as a normal move?
18 inches, I would assume. So you probably still can...
Oh, yeah, we worked it out, didn't we? 18 plus the 3 plus the 6 of the move.
Yeah, you'd be in the enemy's...
It's still 27 inches.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. If you took relentless assault, then... and you went first, you instantly score 4 points, because they can't. If you went first, there's no way they can have a unit in your deployment zone.
And even if you go second, it's highly unlikely they'll have things in your DZ turn 1. Unless they're doing something similar.
So potentially you score 8 points plus a teleport homer straight away. I mean, it's interesting for how cheap you can do that. It's interesting.
And this is why I like the missions for what they're going to do in shaking up list building and strategies for what you plan for in secondaries and what you're planning to take and so on.
Okay. You want to move
Moving
on
on?
to 31?
31, Tide of Conviction. Tony, you okay?
Yeah, no, so I'm just replying to a couple of messages.
Oh, yeah, sure, no worries. Tide of Conviction is one of the few 6 objective missions in this pack. One of them is in your DZ, but it is very close to no man's land. 2 of the objectives are within 6 inches from your DZ, so infantry can walk onto them. And 2 of them are 18 inches from your DZ, so your jump packs won't get near them. You'll need a biker or land speeder to get anywhere near them, turn 1.
I like the look of this. This is a complete shake-up. This is a completely new map, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
It's a cool mission. It's a bit of a pain working out and measuring all your objectives.
Mm. This is a hold 2, a hold 3, and a hold more mission. You only get CP at the start of your turn if you hold your own deployment zone objective.
Okay.
So make sure you do that. The primary plus is to hold objectives that are not near your deployment zone. So you get 4 if you hold the enemy DZ objective at the end of the game. And you get points for holding the objectives that are near the enemy's DZ and further away from yours. So you kind of like hold your DZ one, and then you've got a band where the 2 objectives are that you can ignore completely. And then you've got the ones closer to your enemy DZ that you want to be holding. And you've got the one in your enemy DZ that you kind of want to be holding. So it's weird how it makes you want to jump around and maybe have you jumping over the enemy units or them coming through you or jumping over you or something. It's going to be very curious to see how that one plays out.
It's
I'm
definitely
not
going
too
to
sure
be
how it'll work.
a focus on one side of the map. I guess you'd probably want to focus on the one side of the map where the enemy's one is like near the battlefield edge, right? So that
Makes
like
sense.
you could flank in one direction, and then it may end up being some sort of crossfire.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you do hold one in the enemy's zone, it says at the end of each player's first, second, third, and fourth turn, that would give you 8 for your primary plus. At the end of the battle, you score 4 if you control the objective marker in the deployment zone, or 2 for each other objective marker that controls the opponent's territory. So in turn 5, again, there's going to be a bit of an advantage going second here, right? Because going second, you obviously can then move on to these objectives where you previously were not, and or clear the enemies off these ones
Or
here.
you can completely ignore the primary plus objective in this and just go for the regular holding objectives, go for stranglehold, and focus on just normal objective scoring.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
pretend the primary plus doesn't exist. I can see that being a very viable option for this mission.
Cool. Okay,
So, yeah.
Tide of Conviction. That'll be a fun one to play.
It will.
Let's move on to Death and Zeal then. And this uses the same circle quadrant
Indeed, that
that
Tony
you-
loves.
that Tony
adores.
absolutely loves.
So
I
much.
love the missions. It's such a bloody nightmare setting it up.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
You're a physics
This-
teacher. Surely you can surely you can measure a circle that is
Yeah,
9
but
inches in
because
radius.
not only am I a physics teacher, I'm a massively autistic physics teacher.
Can you not just
means
like
that I'm
get
sitting
your art
there with,
department
like,
to cut you out
rulers
a 9-inch
and-
circle, a 9-inch radius circle on a bit of card? Or
yeah,
something?
or I can do what I did last time, which is get a piece of string that I measured out to be exactly 9 inches from the knot to the pencil, and then I put that like that, and I drew a perfect. But then it was getting that dimension away from the edge and being absolutely perfect.
I
That
did
nearly
see.
sent me into some sort of like secular meltdown.
I saw you say it the first time, Rez. Don't worry. Getting a 9-inch or an 18-inch diameter. It's 9-inch radius or 18-inch diameter. Piece of card or something to put in the middle.
Is there not like a blast marker from second edition that is that size?
quite
You
a
know,
big-
It's
entirely possible.
Yeah, you can, the protractor's going to help you work out the angles, and that's fine. But really, what you want is one of the larger compasses. And I didn't have one, so I had to make one out of a piece of paper.
Tony,
Sorry, I found a
Tony,
piece of
you haven't done
string.
your disclaimer.
And oh yeah, disclaimer: any of my students watching this, piss off. You shouldn't be. You know that it's a school night. It's 11:30. You've got school tomorrow, and if you've got me tomorrow and you're all sort of like tired, it's not okay.
well, it's okay if they can beat you at 40k, right?
Don't listen to any of the random crap we get talking about. Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
listen to- if you get anything out of this, it's purely through luck.
Moving on.
In this mission, if a player controls an objective marker at the end of their command phase, and one or more of the units in range are OBSEC. It remains under the player's control until the end of a subsequent phase if there are no models within range of it.
Yeah.
So,
just like that other mission where they had that same ability there.
Yes. And what is your primary press in this? It is direct assault.
It is to kill things that are on objectives, or to hold every single objective on the board. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. You have to control every objective marker on the battlefield, or control at least one objective that you didn't control last turn. So move, kill, claim, move, kill, claim. So this is going to be a complete butchering murder fest where you try and hold things, they try and hold things, you try and kill things that are on things, they try and kill things that are on things. It's going to be a bit sort of a circular dance around where you're just moving and killing and moving and killing.
Some of
It's
this
going to be hilarious.
stuff is going to be tough to remember as well, though. You know that.
There's a lot of admin in these new missions. They're
Yeah.
really fun, but they do need you to sit down with a pencil and a bit of paper.
Or you ignore the primary plus completely, take Osa Moment and Stranglehold, try and hold 3 objectives as you would in previous missions where you didn't have any of this complication, and just play it as if it was like an old style mission.
True. And that's the flexibility that these new missions bring, right? So it's like, whereas you kind of had to do the same thing in every single mission up till now. Now, for example, when I was, when I was doing that primed explosive missions, I played it a little bit wrong. But I guess the thing was that I knew that, Andrew had an army of 10 knights. There was going to be space in his deployment zone later in the game for me to put units in there and prime some explosives. And in doing so, anything that I have to give up early, because if you've got... all Andrew's knights were shooting knights, right? So I knew that if I had any models out in line of sight, he's just going to shoot them off the table. So I have to give up some primaries if I want to win the game. And now this gives you sort of a second way back into the game. It's not just about all right, I need to give up primaries and I'm so far behind because now I need to hold all the primaries. It's now I can I can keep my foot in the game, and then later in the game I can flood his objective and go boom, boom, boom. It was really cool.
I'm planning on Highland. I'm planning on writing that for myself, my own army, for these sorts of things. I'm not sure if there's going to be value in sharing with other people because it'll be focused mainly on the way I play. But we'll have to think about it.
A matrix table? You mean for... I don't know what a matrix table is.
So that you can take your red and blue pills and see where you go.
Absolutely.
My status, I missed the blast templates and scatter dice as well. They were fun. I especially like the old flamer template and playing the game of trying to cover as many enemies, and then you spaced out your units so that they couldn't do that. And I feel that was a whole level layer of.
I like that they removed it for the sake of time. That was a good thing, and also scattering templates. And is my model under this template? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No,
but it was funny as all hell when your mortars landed on your own guardsmen.
Anyway,
yeah.
Have we covered 32 enough?
We have, I think. We're moving on to 33, which is secure missing artifacts,
which we've previously covered before, so I'm sure we don't need to talk about it, right, Tony?
Yep.
It's priority target, but the priority objective thing is now your primary plus.
Yeah, and you get to move the objectives around, and it's 5 objectives. Hold 1, hold 2, hold more. There's an objective in the middle that doesn't get moved, so it's got synergies with Oath of Moment. You could choose behind enemy lines and relentless assault to synergize with assaulting their deployment zone objective if you want to.
And there's a very nice scoring sheet in the back of the book. Did the previous book have this and I just never saw it?
Yeah, it did.
It did have it. Okay, so I never got to the last page of the previous book. That's my bad, I guess. So you can scan and print this page, I guess, to your heart's content, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of gone over all the missions, pretty much. My takeaways from reviewing all of these missions, as I said previously, 6 of the 9 of them have got 5 objectives and 1 of them in the center of the board. So if you want to go Oath of Moment, you're massively incentivized for building your army to do so now, much more than you used to be. Buy the current White Dwarf with the secondaries on cards. I can't recommend it highly enough for 6 or 7 quid or however much it is in your local currency. It's going to be really useful to just have those objective cards on the table in front of you as a nice, visible, easy reminder of what you're playing towards. And they're really cool. And you get all the useless secondaries for the armies that you don't collect or play that you can print out
I
the
don't know
objectives
that
that you do want to take and
I
glue over
entirely
them.
agree with that. Some of the secondaries, I was looking at them earlier, for the armies that haven't got their own ones in the codexes, are not bad, actually.
Okay,
Some of them are
keep the ones for the
absolutely
armies that you
worthless.
play, and then for the other ones that you don't, just put paper over them for objectives that.
Yeah, the Astra Militarum one, score 1 victory point at the end of the battle round for each enemy unit that was destroyed during that battle round by an Astra Militarum unit.
Although someone who plays
Scions,
told me they really like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good objective. Some of them are a bit naff, and you're not going to take them. Yield no ground for Imperial Knights. Score 2 victory points if you control half or more of the total number of objective markers. You probably don't. What else have we got? Score 2 victory points if no enemy units are wholly within your deployment zone, because you've definitely got enough space to spread out.
However, you don't need to buy the cards to read these. They are included in this lovely book, which you're all naturally going to go out and buy.
They are absolutely in there. They are quite good. The one that I think is the worst one is the poor old Chaos Demons here got shafted with score a victory point each time an enemy model flees the battlefield.
What other things have I got to take away from this? Mobility is critically important in these set of missions, far more than it used to be previously. You want to be able to jump around the battlefield so much nowadays with these missions, which is obviously something to bear in mind with building lists. Death Company with the points drop and Forlorn Fury are potentially going to be very useful for early game, very fast and very strong attacking of objectives and claiming them. You might want to bear that in mind much more than you did previously. You may not. Wrath of Baal will be potentially useful for an extra 2 points of movement, 2 inches of movement on your jump pack units, so they can get to things that they wouldn't have been able to if they were hiding behind some buildings to risk not getting shot on turn 1 if you lost the roll. So Wrath of Baal is potentially worth more of a look than it used to be. I'm strongly considering buying into Firstborn Bikers off the back of all of this, much more than I was previously, on the basis that they're 14-inch move, you can auto-advance for 6, and you can give them, or you can give 3 of them, assault weapons, like a melter gun or a flamer. So, advance 20 inches and still shoot flamers and melter guns on toughness 5, 3-wound models. I'm very interested in Firstborn Bikers now.
What are they, 30 points a model?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean,
obviously, land speeders can do the same thing. Scout bikes are also potentially the same thing. They're very shooty at the strength for high volume of fire, but they don't really have an option to take something more punchy in their shooting.
They're also a lot more easy to kill as well.
Yes, they have 2 wounds rather than 3, so they're a bit more glass cannony.
I mean, I think we've ranked them as fucking awful.
They're also 2 inches faster, however, so that's also worth bearing in mind. Don't bother with Outriders because they're just far too expensive.
They're no better than they ever were.
Land speeders can't have weapon options that synergize with advancing and firing, which is a bit of a shame, and is why I'm more interested in Firstborn Bikers for this particular thing. And it also gives you synergy with engage on all fronts if you're building for mobility and things just going forwards and spreading out and taking and claiming things.
You do have to be careful if you're going with engage with the bikers, though, that you don't take casualties, because that will screw up your game there.
Assuming you take a minimum unit of 3, you could take more.
I think that's the thing I like about the Firstborn Bikers over the Outriders. The Outriders, you can only ever take them in squads of 3, so the second you lose one, you don't score engage, which is another... we already thought they were bad before, well, they're even worse now.
I used them for a laugh the other day, Outriders, and I charged a unit of warriors with them, and I only killed 2 warriors.
Yeah, it doesn't.
They're rubbish.
So that's the end of my thoughts and my takeaways on all the missions.
There was one question for the chat that I thought was good, I think, from Dave. He said, what do you like most about the new book?
The missions. I did not think I would say that, but having spent the time that I have going through all the missions in depth, I love them. I think they're going to change up the game very nicely and very interestingly, and I'm really glad with the job GW have done with them.
So what mission do you like best then, Mark?
Oh, God, no idea. Actually, now that you think about it, taken as a group in general, they all shake up what you have to do and what you have to build your army to be able to take into account across the broad spectrum of the variety of scenarios they present you with. You can't build your army to do one of them if you're going to a tournament. You have to build your army to do 9 of them. Unless you know that you're doing 5 specific missions ahead in advance, of course. But still, that's a broad spectrum of situations your army needs to be able to cope with.
All right, but just to put you on the spot, pick one of them.
I hate you. Let's go the melee brawl in the middle. No, it's boring. I don't like that one at all. It's just going to be a big fight, isn't it? I like the explosives. The explosive sounds fun. The
Tear down the
explosives one
icons.
sounds
The explosives
brilliant.
one's my favourite as well.
The planting the explosives around the board and rushing to disarm your opponent's explosives sounds like such a laugh. I'm really looking forward to playing that one.
Just fun, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is why I have been saying that I think we're going to see more battalions now. I think unless you're dead set on patrol/vanguard, like I think battalion is going to be strongest, just because there's so many missions now that are going to benefit from having more troops, even more so incursors or infiltrators, troops that can get from one quadrant to the other very quickly or easily. And I enjoyed the explosives one a lot, and Andrew specifically said to me when we played it, he was like, I was just trying to kill you. And I was like, well, you got 60 points, I got 90 something. And it was like, it was generally pretty fun having more options. So the explosive mission seems cool. The other one that I like now is the one where you can actually make the enemy lose primary points for taking their backfield objective. I mean, that would be if you have anything that you can bring in that's strong and deep strike, that could be a strong thing to do. So I think you're right. I think it changes things up. If there's any questions from the chat, I guess we said we'd stream for about 2 hours, so we're kind of on our time. So we'll talk for like 1 or 2 more minutes. We'll take a final couple of questions. If you enjoyed today's stream, we'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. If you are new, we'd also really appreciate it if you consider subscribing. We do put out content every 2 weeks, and it's every Thursday night. We're either live on a Thursday night, or we have like a premiere of a longer video, so you can always catch something every second Thursday.
Yeah, we are not 100% set on this, but it is highly likely that the next episode will be covering Codex Custodes. Highly likely. And probably how to fuck it up.
Yeah, definitely how to fuck it up. I've spent a lot of time trying to work out best ways of fucking it up.
Because I'm not going to collect it and play it, but I'd love to know how to beat it. So that's largely what we're probably going to focus on.
Looking at the chat, what we got. Everybody thinks that Outriders are shit. What else we got here? Rezial bonding knife ritual is not a thing, so yeah, maybe that demon's secondary is not quite as awful. I am lying; it is just as awful. What else have we got here? Mark Jackson managed to make it home in a snowstorm, so well done.
Yeah, congrats. I want to hear everybody talking about card condoms from now on. That's obviously
freaking me out. That's a horrible image. What else we got here? Silent Phoenix likes the Sanguinary Priest with Selfless Healer with the bikes. Yeah, pick We're Not Raven Guard. You can get the one on the bike, and it's only an elite's choice.
Raven Wing, not Raven Guard.
Whatever.
Very different.
Then what else have we got here?
One's a loyalist traitor and one's a traitor legion.
Yeah. One of them's led by a demon. The other one's sleepy.
It's fair.
What else we got? Clint loves our channel. That's always a good thing. Miguel, as a Custodes player, tell me exactly what you plan to do. It's really helpful to see my weaknesses to strengthen them. Short answer is we Custodes are still shit at dealing with anything toughness 8 and don't like getting shot. Dave Truman, 5 Blade Guard veterans or Terminators with Sang Priest could go in value since many missions require you to be in the middle and brawl early.
Yep.
Curses of Pro Gold. Yeah, I completely agree.
Another option in the same sort of vein is Dreadnoughts with Rights of Battle or Rights of War or whatever it's called to give them OBSEC and support them with whatever you want to support them with.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we've covered most of the only thing we haven't talked about is Fat Baden. He ate all the pies.
He was obviously celebrating from when he dealt Calgar a mortal wound.
But it wasn't that
Which
mortal
apparently he
because he
did.
survived.
Yeah, but that's. Have you read the fluff about
It was
this?
just a flesh wound.
Apparently, the Alpha Legion and all these other people spread a whole load of fake news around Nakmund and Vigilus saying Calgar's dead, you're all going to get fucked. And all the Imperiums are going, we're all going to die.
Yeah, but he didn't. Which, much to Cato Sicarius' disappointment, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Did you like my 3rd edition Eye of Terror artwork that I went for as well?
I love that they based the
Terror
model off
codex.
that artwork. I really want to get that model and paint it one day because it's so iconic as Abaddon goes.
Yeah. Whereas this
it's very
guy
cool.
is just fat.
Reziel really wants to bend your ear about Tau.
I know he wants to bend my ear around Tau. I think I'm going to run the Vanguard Veterans against Tau,
Yes.
and I think I'm going to reserve one of my Dreadnoughts. We'll see. I'm a bit scared. Tau have this crazy new rule now. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but they have 2 ways. I guess it's almost like a doctrine from
they're
them.
they're two doctrines, the Montcar or the Kauyon.
Yeah, the defensive one
The
is
philosophies.
insane. It's like in turn
But the
3,
offensive one is the more reliably one that's going to fuck you up.
yeah, but I mean, fall back and shoot, and 6s burst in turn 3, and turn
Yeah,
4,
you've got to have
5s and
units left in
6s
turn
burst.
5 to do that, which is
I'm scared.
not something you want to bank on.
Well, I'm
No,
scared.
that's
We'll
the problem.
see.
You've got to have something alive to do it. I think I'd probably, having a look through it, go with the Kauyon. Miguel, yes, I'm going to paint you with no with no arms on because Abaddon's armless. Reziel, yeah, Borkan are balked. They are probably the best one, although I do still quite like the Farsight Enclaves. What else have we got come up? No, my status is online. There is no pile of glory today because
It's a live stream, and we haven't got piles of glory
If you want
for
to see what
live
I'm
stream.
working on, it's that. Look, I've taped it up, ready to airbrush in the details.
What have I been doing?
Because Flyer Meta is here.
I've been building War Walkers, and I'm about to start on Wraith Guard or Wraith Blades.
Nice.
What else we got? Dave Truman, 6 Inceptors with 2 CP shooting action. Any good?
Oh yeah,
pretty good.
I'd rather go 5
I'd
rather
probably
than
run it as
6,
2 units of 3.
or a single unit of 5. The reason why 5 is good because if your opponent starts shooting at you, you want to be able to transhuman for 1 CP rather than 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Miguel, the ignoring invul thing is pretty tasty as well. If you put it on a big gun with a lot of shots, things like Riptides and that. I don't know how big a change it's going to be. We're going to have to see how it plays out. Like I say, I'm going to get the new codex next weekend. I'll do some analysis. I don't know if we'll do a video on it or not. But I will answer questions on it when they come up. And Reziel, yeah, I know it's not an interceptor. I think the Talon's better because it's so much cheaper and it does basically the same job.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight.
It's been a pleasure.
And yeah, going to be back in
It
2
always
weeks,
is.
probably with a Custodes video next.
Yep.
Most likely. Unless something goes horrifyingly different from left field, that's what it is almost certainly going to be.
DTM mentions that, yes, if you want to do Nakmund 100% reliably, though, you do need 6 interceptors. Interesting point.
Okay, that's a fair point. Well made.
Interesting point.
No, Thunderhawk meta is not dead. And do you know what's really good with the Thunderhawk meta? Custodes have got no viable way of beating Thunderhawk meta because they can't really deal with toughness 8
Do you want to just cut him
and
off,
they've
John?
got no guns.
I mean, the bikes are pretty fucking tasty with those melters that get to reroll hits and reroll wounds and
Well,
D3
it's
plus
reroll
3.
wounds, but
You get to reroll 1 hit
do
or 1
get-
wound.
they can do stuff to give them a wound, but it's still only strength 8. It's still a melter gun,
Right, it's
Yeah,
pushing midnight.
a slightly
Come on.
shitter one. Anyway,
Right.
so thank you very much for watching, everybody. Like John says, remember to click on the subscribe button. Remember to poke people to join our thing so that we can get over the magic number and start having a bit more control over the channel. We'd like a community page so I can post random shit.
Perfect.
Again, yeah, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
In probably 2 weeks. Or before if we hijack one of John's streams for whatever reason.
Yeah, you guys are always welcome to my streams. All right, guys, thanks again for watching, and good night.
Cheers. Good night. Doodles.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.